A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Barton Case, press photographer. Out of a big city's roaring life, out of a great newspaper's pounding heart, come the exciting adventures of a man with a camera. Flash Gun Casey, press photographer. Columbia presents a new adventure character, Flash Gun Casey, press photographer. Tough, daring, typical of the men who often risk their lives so that you may see the news as well as read it. Their salaries are not large, and they seldom get much credit. But their lives are packed with danger and thrills. Tonight and every Wednesday night at this time, Columbia invites you to follow the story of Flash Gun Casey and the people who pass in swift-moving parade before the shutters of his camera. Tonight's story, the case of the switched plate. The clock in the tower of the Express building reads exactly 7 p.m. In the city room, Ed Burt, the night city editor, is arguing with Casey, a tall, powerfully built man who is carrying a plate case and a camera.
Quit griping, Casey. You got your pictures, I'll go develop them.
Okay, but for the last time, don't send me to any more weddings. I hate weddings.
Tell me that when you marry.
That day ever arrives, I'll see that it's a private one, not an Easter parade.
Not a big shot there, huh?
Stage, screen, and radio. I was knee-deep in celebrity.
Did Ann Williams cover the story okay?
I guess so. My job was to take pictures of the clam bake, not to write about it.
Many a guy would give a month's salary to be in the same room with Gloria Dolores.
Ouch.
What's the matter now?
That name, Gloria Dolores. I wonder who dug that one up.
Miss Dolores is one of our most famous movie stars.
With all that's going on in the world today, a mere wedding is unimportant.
Whenever a woman like Miss Dolores gets married, it's not a mere wedding. And I hope you got some good shots.
White satin and orchids fairly dripped from the lens.
And the Express would like to use those pictures sometime tonight, if you don't mind.
Okay, but if the public never sees it...
Story of the Dolores wedding, Mr. Gale.
Thanks, Ann.
That's what I mean. The story of the Dolores one. The poor guy doesn't count. Already he's missed the Dolores.
How did the pictures turn out?
He wouldn't know. He's been too busy arguing against that wonderful institution known as marriage.
I'm not arguing against it. I only say send someone else when our dear paper wants pictures of the happy dear paper.
We'll cover a lot of assignments like the Dolores wedding.
That doesn't mean I'll have to like him any better.
You mean you'd rather be taking pictures of Thompson?
Are you kidding?
But Miss Dolores did look sweet, didn't she? Did look
Yeah. And so did the groom, Mr. Dolores. Knocking at my door. Well, come on in, William. Hey, not so wide. You're letting in too much light.
Oh, sorry. I can hear.
That's why they call it dark.
Room. How is it, Sonny?
I just put them in the suit. Faces and figures should be showing any moment now.
And we Dolores has... I'd do anything in the background.
You hold your own.
Listen.
And stop whistling. I don't know why everyone does that when they come into one of these rooms. You won't like it. They'll develop...
Oh, okay, Mr. Casey.
Hey,
Okay.
wait a minute, my ear.
This business. He has a marvelous smile, doesn't he?
Did you say so? There's $100 million up. Hey, what's this?
Whatever it is, it's not a wedding.
Oh, looks like a workshop or something.
Look, here's another one. A long room filled with odd-looking machines.
Yeah. And here's a close-up of one. I never took these. How'd I get my camera?
Somebody took them.
Yeah. Well, get this. Some guy running... Well, he's running right toward the lens.
Yeah, he looks mad.
Uh-oh.
Recognize it?
No, but I do everything else. Or I think I do. These pictures are of the Hartley Laboratories.
Oh, he's the inventor, isn't he?
One of the greatest. He's a regular estate. 6 or 7 buildings on the place. Conducts all his experiments there. This looks like a machine shop.
I suppose a lot of people would like to nose around there.
You can say that again. But they're not allowed to. All their work is done in secrecy. Hartley even has his own private guard. They won't allow a camera within a mile of the place.
I send the guy to take pictures of a wedding, and he comes back with the Hartley laboratory.
But I tell you, I never took those shots. You think I'm crazy?
I know. And the ones of the wedding, you didn't take those either.
No, someone picked up my plate case by mistake. I got his. See? It's almost exactly like mine.
The gentleman was very careless.
It was a natural mistake. Why, we were stumbling over each other. That shindig was represented by every news photographer in town.
Not forgetting the ones from the magazine.
Yeah.
Well, whoever he is, I'm glad he didn't hold the laboratories to an exclusive. At least he took some pictures of the wedding, too. Well, we'll have to run them. I doubt if that plate case of yours will ever turn up.
I'll get it back.
You're lucky you didn't walk off with your camera.
And that must be like mine, too. Hey, look, Burke, this is serious. The guy who took these pictures had no right being on that property.
I suppose I don't know that.
Well, what's so funny?
I'm thinking how surprised the guy was when he developed your pictures. All that glamour and no machine.
You know, what I can't understand is this man here. He's running right toward the camera.
Yes, that is odd. It looks as though he would... Hey, wait a minute. Who were you near at the wedding, Casey?
I've been trying to think. Blake of the Star is a good man.
Yeah.
Raymond of the Inquirer. John's a fashion magazine.
Mm-hmm.
The 4 of us sort of stuck together, moving around, taking shots of the other celebrities as well. Oh, but it couldn't be one of them.
Why not?
I've known them for years. They wouldn't take a chance like that.
Some guys that sell their souls for a little dough. I'll take this. Burke speaking. Yeah? What? That's very interesting. About 6 hours ago, eh? Thanks. Okay, I'll switch you to a rewrite. Dixon, take this. That was Kelly.
Kelly, who covers the police?
Yeah. They just found a plainclothes guard out of the Hartley laboratories. 2 bullets in his chest. Killed about 6 hours ago. Does that mean anything to you, Casey?
Yeah, it does now. He's the guy here in the picture. He was running to stop that camera. And in the excitement, our photographer got him on the film before he shot him.
Yeah, that's the way it adds up. Well, get out there and see if we're right. And check on your friends, Blake, Raymond, and Johns. And be careful. It'll be much easier for him to finish off his second victim. And from where I sit, you look like the next prospect. What a beautiful woman. Miss Dolores looks extremely lovely. The guests charming. The ballroom and tables beautifully decorated. But I can't see where any of it helps me.
But I've explained, Mr. Koch. I never took those pictures.
Then who did?
Well, I don't know.
I suppose you do know that he has the ones you took.
Well, he must have.
Like these, no doubt, developed by him.
I don't remember my plate case being out of my hands for a moment.
A moment would be enough.
Well, there's no way they can trace it to me. I'm safe.
Are you? It was a long time to arrange getting a man in there. I mean, at a time when he could work with a camera and not be interrupted. That opportunity won't come again.
And I suppose it's useless to ask for money?
Quite, you fail. Well, I greatly appreciate looking at this very lovely actress. I would much more appreciate looking at the photographs you lost. Especially the ones of that new fog-penetrating machine. I know 2 corporations that pay $100,000 for that.
I've never failed before.
And you've always been paid before. I was listening to my radio just before you came in. You know the guard that you eliminated has been found?
He came out of nowhere, running toward me.
And you stopped his running.
Yes, a Hackett. I think his picture's on one of the plates.
Very clever. Do you always photograph your victims before doing away with them?
I never killed anybody before.
Please, put the horse.
Well, I never did. I didn't think I'd ever have to.
First one does leave you a trifle shaken. After that, you become easy. But if you'd brought the photograph directly to me...
But I had to be at that wedding, Mr. Koch. As it was, I barely made it.
Yes, of course, your job, which is such a wonderful blind. Tell me, how did it feel walking into all that luxury immediately after... Closing of a lamp. Blood in that socket, Patterson. Socket, Patterson. Socket, Patterson. I wonder what your employers would do if they even dreamed of the pictures you sometimes take with their camera.
Remember, that was my idea. The same camera for both my ordinary work and the work I do for you. That way no one will ever become suspicious.
No? Don't doubt that someone is at this very moment. And he knows that the photographer is not only a thief, but also, shall we say, someone who doesn't hesitate to stop another breather.
Hey, you're right. But how's he going to know it's me?
Well, maybe he won't, but if one of your picture-taking friends should start to ask questions, no matter how subtly put, be careful.
I will.
And if he should become too inquisitive, you can always handle him as you did the guard. Yes, when that gentleman makes his appearance, remember, he's the man who has your bag. And you've been left holding one.
It was the same guy, all right. The murderer rolled his body against the wall and put a machine cover over him.
Now, wait. They didn't let you in, did they?
No, but I talked to the man who found him. Also to a couple of Logan's men.
Who's Logan?
Lieutenant Logan of the homicide squad.
Oh. Did you tell them about the pictures?
Yeah. And every photographer I could think of who covered the wedding. I left the plate case with them. They'll try to trace it.
A lot of good that'll do.
Yeah, there's thousands of those cases.
What about your pals, Blake, Raymond, and Johns?
They're not pals. These guys I bump into making the round.
But you've known them a long time.
Yeah.
Well, what do you really know about them?
They all have cameras and plate cases like mine.
I mean personal.
That's personal.
Now, look, this is no time
All
for...
right.
If you two feel like using some stronger language, I can always leave the room.
Oh, forget it, Williams, forget it.
Blake is married. He has 2 kids. I found him at home reading Our Hearts Were Young and Gay.
I wish ours were. Well, go on.
He was sort of surprised to see me, as I don't usually make those little social visits.
We know you're strictly a nightclub guy.
Quiet. Anyway, I asked him what he'd been doing before the wedding.
With finesse, I hope.
I'm always subtle.
Yeah, like a tank. And what was Mr. Blake doing?
Roaming around?
Oh, fine.
You see, that guard was murdered around 2 o'clock. The wedding took place at 3. The reception at 4. So the guy
You don't have to draw a blueprint. Where did you find Raymond of the Empire?
At a bar?
With a blonde.
No, redhead.
Not the
one you know, Bert.
Oh.
There are a lot of redheads in the world.
And what had he been doing prior to 3 o'clock?
Roaming around.
That's just dandy. Just dandy. And Johns of the fashion magazine.
Also found at a bar. One of the fantasy clubs.
Alone.
Yeah, but his girlfriend works there. And early this afternoon...
Now, wait. Don't tell me. Let me guess. Don't tell me. Let me guess. He was roaming around.
Right.
Not an alibi in the bunch.
I still can't believe one of them did it. It must be. Well, I found 2 of them at bars, and that's where I'm going.
Can I tag along, Casey?
Why not?
Can I tag along, Casey?
Why not?
Down the Blue Note, huh?
Yeah.
Where's that?
It's a musician.
Where's that?
It's a musician's hangout. Casey always goes there when he wants to think. They have a piano player there. Who's his nerve.
And sometimes helps me solve a problem.
Well, I hope he can help you with this one. And you'd better warn Williams about that bartender.
Yeah. His name is Ethelbert. And he reads the Atlantic Monthly in Lord Dunsany. And he's tough. Sometimes he has to be the bouncer, but you'll enjoy him.
I expected to hear a jam session going on.
It's only 11:30. The musicians don't roll in here until they're through work.
Oh.
Want to sit at the bar?
Fine.
Ethelbert, put down that New Republic and give us some service.
Hiya, Flash Gun.
Service.
New Republic? Look.
One World. How do you find it?
Great. It says here on
I've read the book.
but maybe it didn't absorb it.
I did. It's excellent. Hey, what are you looking at? You ever see a pretty girl before?
Not that pretty.
Well, thank you, Ethelbert.
This is Ann Williams, Ethelbert. She is new on the Express. I'm showing her the site.
Full of eight.
Beer. Williams?
Same.
2 beers.
I'm surprised that you find time to read a book.
Yeah. Right now I'm surprised, but not about that. Blake, Raymond, John. Has to be one of them, but why?
Well, what they were after must be worth a fortune.
Yeah, they wouldn't talk about it out there today.
2 beers, no heads on them.
Thanks, Upper.
What'd you think of Thomas Paine, Flash Gun?
He was a very great man.
Yeah. Quote, "These are the times which try men's souls." Unquote. I know all about Thomas Paine, Miss Williams.
I'm going over the piano. Want to come along?
Oh, listen, Flash Gun.
It's not that I don't want to lend you an ear, Ethelbert, but I have a lot on my mind. Maybe Ernie and his music can help straighten me out.
Well, I'll stay put and hear about the famous revolutionary figure.
Thanks, Miss Williams.
I said you'd enjoy it.
As you no doubt know, Miss Williams, Thomas Paine was not...
Hello, Ernie.
Hiya.
Slow night?
Not too good. What's on your mind?
Plenty.
Anything you'd like to hear?
Nope. As long as you stick to the old ones.
We agree on that. Remember this one?
Yeah, sure. Confessing.
Uh-huh.
The late 20s. Maybe earlier.
That's right.
Well, that world's gone.
Yep. But we still have the song.
Yeah. And sometimes that's all we have.
Pretty girl you left at the bar.
Yeah. Ann Williams, reporter. Only been in town a few weeks.
Thinking, aren't you?
And getting nowhere fast.
Want to talk about it?
I can't.
Nicest looking girl I've ever seen you with. You ought to marry, Casey.
How about yourself?
I tried it once.
And?
She left me.
Just like that?
Just like that. You see, I didn't make enough money. She wanted too much.
And, she met a guy who had it?
That's right. Yeah, funny the way a guy thinks when he's losing a woman. There's nothing he wouldn't do for her. To give her the things she wants, he'd almost commit murder.
Some guys do.
Yeah. What's the matter, Casey? Did I say something?
I think you did.
You going?
Yeah. And thanks, Ernie. You've been a great help. I may see you later on.
It's as I was saying, Miss Williams, sometimes I have to throw a guy out, but it ain't like it was in the old days.
No?
No. Then they threw me out.
Look, Williams, I better run along. You go back to the office and tell Burke I'll see him in an hour or so.
Where are you going?
To see a dame at the Fantasy Club, and you can't come. Ethelbert, Williams will pay for my beer. Okay, Ma. Turn your head a little to the left. That's it. Hold it now.
Oh, I closed my eyes.
You only thought so. Anyway, we'll take another one to make sure.
All right. I'm awfully glad you dropped around, Kate.
So am I.
I saw you sitting at the table out front while I was doing my number. I didn't think you came to take my picture.
Of course, it's no novelty for you to have your picture taken. You sit for Hal a lot.
Mm-hmm. Once a week regularly.
It must be love.
Oh, it's still nice to have someone else photograph me. How's this?
There?
Oh, not as attractive as Mr. Lawrence?
Oh, you're a different type.
Hal tells me it was quite a wedding.
Yeah. Were you with Hal before he went to it?
No, he was working.
I know, but, I thought you might have had lunch together.
Not today. This better?
Yeah, fine. But, don't cross your legs.
Oh.
And don't smile. We'll make this one sort of, pensive.
Oh, I couldn't look pensive if I tried.
Think of green fields and moonlight nights.
All right, but I still won't look pensive.
Hold it. That does it. Look for them in the express.
How many to take altogether?
7.
Can I have a set?
Sure. I'll drop them over to the towers. That's where you live, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Expensive.
Perhaps we could have lunch together.
And get Hal sorting it.
We wouldn't have to have lunch there.
As far as that goes, we could have it here.
Yeah.
I never thought the Fantasy Club would have dressing rooms like this. This dressing room looks more like an apartment.
Just a few personal touches that I've added.
Just a few personal touches.
Mm-hmm.
Very elaborate. And those rocks I've been photographing on your lovely arms. They almost reached the elbows. They're real, I imagine.
Everything I wear is real.
I noticed that mink you were sporting around this past winter.
Do you like it?
Swell. Those foxes over there are nice, too. Oh, gosh, it must be great to have an income.
Are you kidding?
Well, you don't buy those things singing at nightclubs.
At least not one like this.
Why do you work in a nightclub, Mara? Apparently you don't have to.
Well, I like to be seen, and it's something to do. I don't have to tell you I'm not much of a singer.
But you're really something to look at.
Oh, thanks. Then, we have a date for lunch?
If it weren't for Hal, I wouldn't hesitate a moment.
Oh, forget Hal.
I'd like to marry sometime. How long have you two been going together?
Almost 2 years.
That's amazing.
Why? He's very generous.
Yeah, I can see that.
I like to live well. You don't know what it is not to have anything.
Oh, don't I?
I'd rather be dead than to live like some people.
Nothing but the best for you, huh, Mara?
Oh. Don't you think I deserve it?
Mm-hmm. But so do thousands of other girls in the world. There are girls who haven't even enough to eat.
Are you giving me a lecture?
No, but that's why we're not going to have lunch together. You are too expensive for me.
Perhaps to you, I wouldn't be too expensive.
It wouldn't last. You'd miss those lovely gifts that Hal passes out.
I still don't see any reason why we shouldn't see each other once in a while.
By the way, where is Hal?
Oh, he usually drops in around this time. Shall I tell him you were here?
Well, why not?
Would you like to wait for him?
No, I'll run along. I think I'll develop these pictures tonight.
Oh, that's wonderful.
The Express thanks you, and I thank you.
Do you think one of them might be on the theatrical page tomorrow?
The theatrical page? You underrate old Casey. There's a possibility you'll find one on the front page. So long. Hiya, Benny. Any payphones here?
Yeah, two of them. Over there by the section.
Thanks.
Burke speaking.
Hello, Bert.
Casey, what do you think we're printing? The Boy's Companion? Where are you?
Phone booth at Benny's Fantasy Club. I just got some shots for the morning papers. And if I were you, I'd leave plenty of space on the front page.
Well, you'd better get back here with something soon, or I'll hold a 4-line spread in the obituary for you. What are the pictures? And what suspect is to have the benefit of your latest brainwave?
I just shot some pictures of the suspect's girlfriend. I'm on my way down to develop them. Now, unless I miss my guess, you'll be writing to the end of this story in tomorrow's paper. And by the way, you'd better get one of Logan's men down there. The way things look right now, Oh, hold on a minute. Here comes our friend. I think he's going to make a call in the booth next to me. Maybe I can catch part of it. Hold it.
Hello, Mr. Cox. You talked to me earlier tonight, then took some pictures of Mara. For his paper, he told me. But why at 1 in the morning? No, I'm certain he's the one. Okay. Yeah, I'll be careful. Where'll I come for the money? Above your antique shop on Sedgwick Avenue. You mean I've got to take care of him tonight? What do you think I'm made of? It was only this afternoon that I know, Mr. Cox, but I never expected that to happen. All right. You think so? I'll do it tonight. Now.
Hello, Brick. Did you hear that?
You moronic offspring of a printer's devil. You had your hand over that mouthpiece.
Of course I had my hand over the mouthpiece. Think I want you to take all the credit? Now get this. Send several of Logan's men over to Koch's antique shop on Sedgwick Avenue. Mr. Koch will be in the apartment upstairs. Pick him up. And I may need one of Logan's men while I'm developing these pictures.
After all the runaround you've given Logan, you know how he'll feel about sending a man out to protect you.
Okay, but you know what happens to your story if they miss Koch and our friend gets me?
Well, Logan will probably take that chance, but I'll ask him. And I doubt if a man could have time to get here anyway.
If that's the way it is, maybe you better frame that obituary in purple satin under glass. For me. So long. Oh, dark room, very dark. And Casey's in the dark. And this isn't the love. You're letting in a lot of light, Hal.
Afraid it'll spoil Mara's pictures?
Yeah. You want to see him?
No.
Why turn on the light?
I might miss you in the dark.
You seem to know your way around. What'd you do? Come up the back stairs?
I've been in the express building before.
Lonely at 2 in the morning, isn't it? Man, it's pretty steady.
So you finally noticed what it's holding?
I noticed it when you first opened the door. But, relax. Relax, Hal. We're old friends. John's the fashion magazine and Casey the Express. Just a couple of guys around town.
Cut it.
Got the same gun you used on the guard?
In one respect, it doesn't make much noise.
I see.
What made you suspect me, Casey?
I could have sworn that was coming. Why is it that all criminals insist on knowing why they were suspected? Well, if it'll gladden your heart any, I'll tell you. It was a piano player. He said something which made me think of you and Mara. Then I thought of your salary as a photographer.
You made a mistake when you went back to the fantasy club the second time, Casey. You shouldn't have tried to pump Mara.
Doesn't she know what you're doing?
No.
Where'd you think the money came from?
She never asked.
Just as long as it came in, huh? But I don't think it was a mistake. I gambled that Mara would repeat our conversation word for word, except the part where I wouldn't take her lunch.
You're right.
Oh, no. Incidentally, the police picked up a friend of yours about 15 minutes ago. Name of Koch. Antique dealer over on the east side. Oh, I see that one hit home, huh? Well, you're all through, Hal.
Later, maybe, but right now you are.
Easy on the trigger finger. You should hear it all. The big mistake is yours in coming here. I never had any evidence against you. Any real evidence. But I have now.
You'll never use it.
I've already used it. It's been used right now. You walk in this room staring straight at me with a gun in your hand. You should have looked behind the door. There's been a witness in this room all the time. In fact, right behind you now.
You think I'd fall for that whole gag?
It's not a gag.
You must think I'm dumb.
I guess you heard enough. Okay, have Logan come in.
You'll be dead when he gets here.
Ann, where did you get that blackjack?
From Ethelbert. Quote, he who gets sucked over the bean is easy to arrest. Unquote.
Put down that American Mercury, Ethelbert, and draw me a beer.
It's not the American Mercury. It's...
I know. There's still one world.
Hiya, Miss Williams.
Hello, Ethelbert. Oh, thanks for the loan of the suede.
That's all right. She was really worried when you tore out of here, Casey.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Been busy, Ethelbert?
I had to break away from this book for a while tonight, but I managed to sandwich in a very interesting article.
Would you mind drawing my beer for me, Ethelbert? I want to sit over by Ernie and listen to a couple of numbers.
Not at all. But this article was about guys who steal industrial designs by photographing them. And you know what I think?
What?
Well, just for a starter, understand, they all ought to be socked over the head, but hard. Quote, he who gets clunked over the conch is out of commission and easy to put in the clink. Unquote.
Please, Ethelbert, our beer.
Yes, Ethelbert, our beer. And this time be sure he pays for it.
You've been listening to Flash Gun Casey, Press Photographer, the first of a new series of adventure programs based on the fiction character created by George Harmon Cox. This series is written by Ashley Buck in collaboration with Mr. Cox. The program tonight was directed by Albert Ward and produced for Columbia by Chester Rainier. Join us again next Wednesday night at this same time for another swift-moving story of a press photographer, Flash Gun Casey. The adventure, Murder Off the Record. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
This I believe. A.J.P. Taylor, an outstanding British historian, is the only Oxford Don who can regularly pack a huge lecture hall at 9 o'clock on Saturday mornings. His independence and unpredictability make him a popular participant in a number of radio and television panels. He is equally at home discussing the Habsburg monarchy or the most recent political development. This is Professor Taylor's thoughtful creed.
There are those whose private beliefs are linked up with their active, their professional lives, as, say, a Christian priest practices Christianity as well as preaching it. I can't say that I'm in that happy position. I've one set of beliefs that I learnt as a historian, and another that I've carried along with me, I was going to say, from the beginning. As a historian, I don't believe in much except doubt. I doubt the historical evidence. I doubt men's motives. I expect even worse results from idealism than from selfishness. I'm not surprised in the human record by muddle and fraud, failure and misery. In fact, I find in world history a story redeemed from horror only by its folly. Practically the only men I admire are those who've tried to tell the truth about this story, and I try to imitate them. I have the historian's conscience, though I'm not always faithful to it. I tell the truth, though the heavens fall. But there is the other truth that I learnt from my Quaker school and my Quaker ancestors, a truth that to my mind has nothing to do with Christianity or revealed religion. It is the belief in what George Fox called that of God in every man. I don't believe that I'm better than my fellows, and what is more, I don't believe that anyone is better than his fellows. History teaches me the nonsense of Rousseau's view that man is naturally good. All the same, I'm ready to take a chance on it. Better that than the other way round. Nowadays, everyone in the Western world talks about liberty and about our way of life. I sometimes wonder whether they mean it seriously. We're inclined to expect that if people are really free, then they'll all agree with us. But there's not much point in tolerating people we agree with. I'm for tolerating the people I don't agree with. And for this there is, it seems to me, only one basis. To say of the other man, he's as good as I am. You can't have toleration without human equality. And that's why I hate oppression wherever I see it. I hate the oppression of non-communists in the communist world. I hate the persecution of people for their religious or political beliefs anywhere. I hate the oppression of the colored peoples in Kenya or South Africa or the United States. I can't reason about this. I'm sure that there are often good arguments for segregation or even for concentration camps. But the arguments don't affect me. I have a blind, if you like, irrational belief against it. Doesn't my history pull me up? Don't I ever say to myself, there's always been oppression, and for that matter, when the oppressed get on top, they usually turn out just as bad as their oppressors. No, I don't ever say these things. If history goes against human equality, so much the worse for history. Most history records the triumph of the tyrant and the persecutor. Certainly things could not have been worse if we'd tried freedom instead. So I'm for giving every man his head and letting him run his life as he likes. But of course, I want to be given my own head too, and I privately believe that it is a better head than most.
That was A.J.P. Taylor, a controversial British teacher who never hesitates to express his sincere and original ideas.
Crime does not pay.
Not for me, Frankie, not for me. You can have all the $20 a week jobs there are, not for me. Well, I just thought that... You weren't thinking. Look at this street. Dirty old tenements, garbage cans, lousy junk. You can have it, but you won't get away from here just doing nothing. And the surest way to stay is a 20 a week job. Me? I'm getting out fast and in a big way. I got plans. You can come for the ride, kid, if you want to. But nothing's stopping Jackie Powers. Remember I said that. Nothing's stopping me.
In the interest of good citizenship and law enforcement, we present Crime Does Not Pay, based on the famous Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer series of short subjects. In just a moment, you will hear The Kid with a Gun, featuring Donald Buca. And now, Crime Does Not Pay, featuring Donald Buca as Jackie the Kid Powers in The Kid with a Gun. Jackie Powers was born and grew up in a big city slum. He resented that. He resented the weary tenements, the grimy flats, the tired, beaten people, among them his own mother and father. And as he sat on the stone stoop of the building where he lived, his cap on the back of his head, a crumpled cigarette drooping from his lips, Jackie made up his mind. He invited his friend Frank along with him, partly to bolster his own courage, partly because he felt he needed a partner. And so it began, on a foggy, rainy night, perfect for the operation the kid had in mind.
Frank, you say something. Nothing to say. Gee, I never thought stealing a car was so easy. Hey, take it easy, Jackie. It's wet out there. It's strictly the speed limit, Frank. Going to a job, that is. Think I want to get picked up for driving without a license? I never thought of that. You got to think of everything. Go through a red light, for instance. Prowl car stops you, flatfoot asks for the registration, boom, up you go. And a larceny rap for stealing the crate. You just went through a light, Jackie, huh? Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's another $4 I owe the city. Let him try and collect. But you just said that... So I said. So okay. Forget it. You got those newspapers? Yeah. Here. In the brick? On the floor. Now wrap the brick in the papers. I don't get it. You will. Do like I tell you. Now we're here. Now fast now. Right. All set? Yeah. Let's go. Hey, it's wet out here. So what? You want an umbrella? No, but my ma does. Does that keep you dry? Give me that brick. Now, dummy, you'll see why the newspapers. They bust the glass off and it falls inside the window. Catch? What's that? Boy, look at that box jacket. Yeah. Well, Ruthie looks swell in that. Here we go. I got it. Let's scram. Oh, boy, I started the bell ringing, too. How do you like it, Ruthie?
Oh, it's beautiful. It almost shines.
Listen to the dame. A fox jacket that shines. Who ever heard of a thing like that shining?
Oh, I mean, here in this room, it's... Gosh, I don't know. Like something that dropped down from another world.
Yeah, it came from another world, all right, Ruthie. The kind of world I'm going to live in. And quicker than you think. And you're coming with me, baby. Go on. Put it on. It's yours, Ruthie.
Oh, no. No, Jackie, I won't take it.
But I got it just for you.
I won't take it.
That's all you know how to say. I won't take it.
Where did you get it, Jackie?
What's the difference? I got it. I can't wear it myself. It's for you.
Where did you get it?
In the North Woods. I trapped the little foxes all by myself. Caught them by their cute little tails.
Oh, Jackie, please.
Oh, now, look, Ruthie. All my life I figured my girl would wear furs. Not lousy rabbit skins, good furs. So here they are. What's the difference where I got them? You like them, don't you?
Oh, it's beautiful. A girl dreams too, Jackie.
So, okay. Put them on.
But I gotta know, how did you get it?
I didn't make a killing in Wall Street. You can bet on that.
Oh, tell me, Jackie.
Ah, put it on. I want to see you in it. Then maybe I'll tell you.
Well, all right.
Hey.
Gee, the lining feels so smooth.
Silk, I guess.
Oh, no, it's satin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure, it's that. Hey, now turn around.
Okay.
Now walk. A slow light. Oh, baby. If I ever catch you walking like that for another job...
No, Jackie. Now, tell me, how did you get it?
Like a hot knife through butter. Bust to the window. Boom. Off we go.
I don't want it.
What? Of all that crazy things, I stick my neck out and you don't want it. Well, what's the matter? Some of the glass stick in the lining?
Jackie, you stole it.
Well, sure I stole it. How else did you think I got it in the first place? Now, where would I get the dough for something like this? From the bum who calls himself my father? From my washerwoman mother?
When you talk like that, I think I hate you. Oh, here, take the jacket. It makes me shudder to touch it.
Makes you shudder to touch me, too, I
Yes,
suppose.
it does.
You
Now.
left me last Saturday at the dance. And afterwards. So now I'm asleep or something, huh? Come here.
No, you're ugly when you look like that. Stay away
Here,
from
I
me.
said.
Well, you... Oh, please take your jacket and go away.
Okay, let's get at it. No burglar alarm. I taste the joint. I got the brick all wrapped up. Good. Which window? No window, dope. The door. We're going in here. Wait a minute. What? Wait for the yell. Less noise, the better. Now, start it. Come on. Up, will you? That's it. Maybe keep the suits over here. Hats in the front, right side. Watches and stuff left side. Shirts and ties in the back. How do you know? I taste the joint, I told you. No, thank you, sir. I'm just looking, I said. Just wants to know if I want to try on a suit. Where'd I get 65 smackers for a suit? Here. Want this one? Will it fit me? This rack is our side. I look. Okay? Yeah, sure. If you say so, Jackie. What am I doing? Dressing you, too? Come on. You cut this up? Yeah, sure. Why don't you use a flashlight? Because I ain't advertising us being here. Hey, you want a hat? No, I never had one. Me neither. You ain't charged with hats right away. They start making with a question. Yeah. Okay. Let's grab some shirts and springs. Well, what'd you take there? A couple of wristwatches. From now on, Jackie Powers runs on Swisola lunchtime. How many shirts you taking? It doesn't for me. The same for you. What size? 14.5, I guess. Same as me. Okay. Let's spring. Jackie, the car.
We took care of that, Sonny. Drop those suits quick.
Yeah, sure. So I didn't do nothing, honest.
I didn't do nothing. Stop you. Come back here. Stop or I'll fire.
Jackie, stop. The cop's got a gun.
This way, kid. Snappy now.
Oh, save it, Cheese.
Oh, one of those, are you, Powers?
So what?
You'll find out.
In this college?
Right here. We handle your kind by the dozen. Older and tougher, too.
Hey, you forgot something, Cheese. I ain't gonna be here no 4 years.
No. But you'll be back. You all come back. In there, kitty.
Oh, you
Ask
stop it.
Blackie Davis to tell you a bedtime story.
Blackie Davis?
You heard of me, huh, kid?
Who hasn't? How long you been here?
6 months, got another 6 to go. Why, kid?
How'd they get you?
A rat learned how to sing.
Me too.
That's so? Want to talk?
Why not? I'll be out in 6 months. What Frankie'll get won't be no postal card.
What was it?
Breaking and entering. Frankie passed out when the cop fired at me. Over my head, though. He gave him the whole story after he come to. Names, addresses, the works.
What'd he get?
Suspended sentence. Parole to his mother.
And you?
6 months. The judge was so sorry he couldn't send me to no reform school. They're too crowded, he says. Nobody over 17.
How old are you?
17 and a half.
18 when you get out, huh? Well, you got a few good years ahead of you. If you don't make no more mistakes.
He didn't make any on the first job.
Oh? This wasn't the first?
Nah. First was a fur place. Snatched a fox cat.
Oh? How?
Brick wrapped up in a newspaper. Through the window.
Well, that's how I started myself.
No kidding.
Yeah. Frankie in on that, too?
Yeah, he told him that. They'll never find that jacket. I got it stashed good. It's something special.
Here for a dame?
When I find it. And I will.
How'd you break and enter the last place?
Well, the same way, through the glass door. Something wrong? Well, the cop spotted the car. What's the brick got to do with that?
Yeah, that was bad, too. Never do a job the same way twice. Once you get in the habit. Look, kid. Spider Jones is 2 cells up the line. The cops know his touch so well, when they find a job he's done, they just pick him up.
Oh, I get it. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Say, why are you giving me advice? You've only known me 10 minutes.
Well, we're going to be in college together here for 6 months. I'm starting your education, see?
Why? What's in it for you?
A little fun, maybe. Maybe a little profit, too.
Profit? How?
Well, like in every business, the established fella's got to be able to spot talent, see?
And I got talent, Blackie?
Yeah, you sure have. And by the time we walk out of here, practically together, you'll have training, too. I can use a kid like you.
It's a deal. When's the first class, Professor?
In just a moment, Crime Does Not Pay will continue with this story of The Kid with a Gun. Now we continue with Crime Does Not Pay, featuring Donald Buca as Jackie Powers, the Kid with a Gun. Yes, Jackie Powers went to college, and with an expert professor. The seeds which had been planted in Jackie's mind, in the environment to which he had been born, were well tended by Blackie Davis in that cell in the state prison. And they sprouted and bore fruit when Jackie came out of prison at the age of 18. By the time he was 21, he was Jackie the Kid, second only to Blackie Davis, fast with a knife and faster with a gun. And at long last, Jackie was living the life of which he had dreamed.
Hey, Gladys.
Yes, kid?
I got something to show you.
You got something to show me.
Yep. Extra special. Take a look, beautiful. Hey, try it on.
Hey, that's a honey. Gee, you don't make them like that anymore.
Had it 4 years.
Well, that was before you had your vacation.
Uh-huh. I kept it kind of private. You like it?
Well, who wouldn't?
You? With that mink Blackie gave you?
Oh, mink's all right. It's sort of a uniform these days. You're nobody without a mink. But foxes like that. Oh, I guess I'm just a chorus girl at heart, Jackie.
No girl ever stayed in a chorus with a figure like yours, baby. With or without fans.
Why, Mr. Powers, how you do go on.
Yeah, that I love, huh? You want to try it? That's right.
Well, I'd love to, darling.
If you do, it'll mean something.
Meaning what?
You'll belong to me. More than to Blackie.
Well, the kid grows up.
I grew up a long time ago, baby.
Aren't you cutting in where it might be dangerous?
Blackie?
Uh-huh.
You're worth it, kid. With me, there's extra value when what I want belongs to someone else.
You probably beat your women.
Up to now, no.
I'll try on the foxes.
Just for size?
Maybe. How do they look?
Walk for me, baby. They were made for you, beautiful. And you were made for them.
Just for them?
You know better than that.
You don't want to crush foxes like that.
Right.
Yeah? Guys? Who else? We're here. 3 of us.
Take the skins, baby. Come on in.
Okay, kid.
Cut it out.
Get in there.
Take off your hat. There's a lady present.
Let me go, then. Hello, Frankie.
Jack. You didn't want to come, kid.
But he came.
Yeah, they all do. Frankie, I've waited 3 years for this.
Why don't you leave me alone? What'd I ever do to you?
6 months. That's all. Remember?
I had to, Jackie. They had a rubber hole.
You had to nothing. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Rain. This is Frankie, my one-time partner. Frankie, say hello to Gladys Terrain.
Hi.
Gladys Terrain?
Yeah. Yeah, I told you I'd do all right, didn't I, Frankie? You know the name, I see.
Who doesn't?
Say hello.
How do you do?
Fine, thanks. And you?
Jackie, what do you want me
Shut up, will you?
What do you want with him, kid?
This character, ladies and gentlemen, couldn't keep his trap shut.
Oh, one of those?
Yeah. Yeah, one of those. Of course, if he had kept quiet, maybe I wouldn't have met Blackie the way I did. But that doesn't make much difference, see? Frankie, what would you do in my place?
Oh, Jackie, for the love of... Jackie.
No, Harry, hold him.
Yeah, sure.
Stop, please, don't! Something worse than anything a cop would dare to do. And that's for passing out on me that night on 3rd Avenue. A match! Hold on his head.
He ain't feeling nothing, kid.
Throw some water on him.
Won't do no good, kid. Can we put him down now?
Throw some water on him, I said.
What's the use? He's dead, kid.
Yeah.
All the way over here, he kept saying something about having a bad heart.
You're a fool. You haven't the brains of a louse.
The kid didn't know he had a bad heart.
You stay out of this, Gladys.
Okay.
I thought I told you to be careful. If you got to kill, do it away from your own place and mine.
We got away with it, Blackie. Nobody will ever find a body. Joe and Harry lugged him out like he was drunk.
Just dumb luck is all.
Oh, that's right.
Now, shut up. How many times do you need to be told?
I don't need to be told. Not anymore, I don't.
Well, now you know everything, huh?
I get along.
Without me to wet nurse you, it'd last as long as ice in July.
You bore me, Blackie. I got a trick or two.
You know, Gladys, I think this brat needs a brief lesson. Of course, I probably shouldn't waste my time with dirtying my hands, but for his own good.
Stay away from me, Blackie. I'm warning you.
Yeah. There'll be more where that comes from.
Blackie, look out. He's got a knife.
That kind of a trick.
That was one trick he didn't teach me. Nobody slapped me around. Nobody screaming it. And if somebody did?
All right, Jackie. Put away the heater.
Not till I know where you stand. Well?
With you, of course, with you.
And Harry?
Harry, do what I tell him. What about
Gladys? She's with me. Aren't you, baby?
Yeah, naturally, kid, of course.
She likes foxes, Joe. Big, fluffy foxes.
What about Blackie?
I got an idea about him, Joe. I understand the Flatfeet have been looking for him for some time. Let's make them a little present, eh? You and Harry drop him on the steps of City Hall sometime tonight. I'd like to join you, but me and my baby, we got a little celebrating to do. Okay, fellas. Now let me repeat the orders once more. Joe, you drive.
Right, kid.
Harry and Fred, you take care of the watchmen. And get into the 2 convertibles they keep parked near the gate. The rest of you each take a car. You know which ones I want. I'll get the keys from the rack in the office. When I blink the headlights on that big sedan I'm taking, Joe, you lead the way. When the wild Irishman sees how many used cars he has left tomorrow morning, he'll be wild, all right. All right, Joe. 10 seconds.
Right. First time a whole chain of jewelry stores is busted open in one night. And on the same second, each store.
You ain't kidding. Ready? Heave it. Come on down out of that driver's seat.
Of course.
You're hauling furs, aren't you? Well, get on.
You don't scare me with that pop gun, punk.
Don't I? All right, fellas. Start transferring the load. We won't bother us tonight. Okay, Alex. I'm taking over the club.
You're taking nothing, kid. I built this club. My boys and I mean to keep it.
Alex, I told you want to keep this club. You put Gladys up in lights. And pay me $1,000 a week.
And I told you...
Sorry, Alex. You asked for it.
Say, I showed one of the girls a coach, Jackie.
Yeah?
You know what she said?
Nah, what?
She said the next time she came to see me, she'd expect to see a mink bedspread with ermine trimming.
Maybe she will, baby. Maybe she will. Now what?
I think you passed the red light, kid.
Along the curb, you.
Like I always say, discretion is better than sticking your neck out.
Yes, isn't it?
What do you mean by that, Craig?
Oh, nothing. Just something to say.
Now, where are you going?
My right leg is cramped. I'll stretch it while you take your ticket.
Okay, mister, let's see your license.
What'd I do, officer?
Right through the light. License.
Was just changing,
I'm a
officer.
busy man, so are you. License.
Okay. Have you wait. Yeah.
Name? John Powers. Now, let me see your registration, too.
Officer, Jack is the nickname for John, isn't it?
What's that? Why, you little...
Officer, he was holding me with his gun. He's Jackie the Kid Powers. We wanted for the murder of Blackie Davis. Now they'll get you, Jackie. Now they'll get you. And Blackie can rest in peace.
Keep those people back there. Back out of the line of fire.
Yes, sir.
All right, now, back.
Look, kid, if you insist on staying here, I can't be responsible.
Oh, I don't care. I swore on Blackie's grave I'd see him get it.
No sense getting it yourself. We'll take him alive, I hope, and we'll need your testimony. Got it ready, Lieutenant. Tear gas through? Yes, sir. You took an awful chance, miss.
Well, I had to, I guess. For once, I didn't figure the odds.
All right, Powers, are you coming out? Come and make me. Don't be a fool, Powers. The alley's covered. Come on out. Come and get me, Blackwood, for the last time, Powers. All right, men, so we'll save the city the cost of the trial. Tear gas and then the gun. Fire! Had enough, Powers? All right, let's go in and get him.
No, miss. It's been blown off its hinges. Now, that's all there is to it now. Inside there, we'll find all that's left of Jackie Powers.
Crime does not pay.
Donald Buca, who was featured as the Kid with a Gun, will be back with you in just a moment. Now, here in person is Donald Buca.
Almost every day I read in the newspapers, as you do, of some criminal who has been caught or convicted who had a background like Jackie. His story is one among thousands of crime and its penalties. Of crime that has its roots in social ills which we will one day cure. But that cure is the responsibility of all of us. And it deals with better living conditions, better education, more jobs, and all that sort of thing. It's very true that all men are born equal. But both good and bad citizens are made, not born. Once we have eliminated the conditions which make bad citizens, we'll have eliminated much of the crime which plagues our modern civilization. Yes, playing Jackie Powers made me think. I hope this story made you think a little, too. It's another case which proves once again that crime does not pay.
Thank you, Donald Buca. Crime Does Not Pay is presented by arrangement with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, producers of the Technicolor picture, That Forsyte Woman, starring Errol Flynn, Greer Garson, Walter Pigeon, and Robert Young. The program was written by Ira Marion and directed by Mark B. Loeb. The music was composed and conducted by John Garth. Burton B. Turkis acted as technical advisor. This I believe. Adelaide Carr is a feature writer on the staff of the Associated Press. For 5 years, she was a foreign correspondent attached to the AP Bureau in Paris. She is at present on the staff of AP News Features in New York. Her stories cover a wide range of subjects, and she is constantly on the move. Here is Adelaide Carr.
It seems to me that scarcely a day passes without my hearing somebody say something about luck. Either he never has any, or someone else has too much. It always makes me think of the story of a playwright who had been stacking up fame and fortune on Broadway. One evening, when his latest play was at its height, his father happened to meet an old friend. The friend said, "Well, your boy certainly has been lucky, hasn't he?" The father looked at him a moment, and then he said, "Yes, he has been lucky. And the harder he works, the luckier he gets." It makes me think of another story that a friend of mine tells about Thomas Edison. One day, when they were walking through the Edison property together, my friend asked the inventor to show him where he worked out his inventions. Edison pointed to a small, inconspicuous building and said, "There, mostly failures." That from the man whose successes were so great they changed the pattern of his times. The world labeled him a genius, but he said it was only 1% inspiration. The other 99% was perspiration. As far as I'm concerned, these two men have said it. It's the work that does it, the coming back again and once more if need be, till it's done well. What if I do nick out a piece of epidermis in the process? It doesn't hurt much, and it will grow again. Besides, I may have nicked out a blemish. What if I do go down on one knee, or even both knees? From this position, many a man and woman have begun to pray for guidance to complete a job that human intelligence muddled, and to complete it in a way that spelled victory. Much of what I mean is illustrated by Madeline, who has been my maid for years. She was born in France, but she's an American citizen now, and 75 years old. I was certainly astonished when I learned her age a few years ago. She looks at least 15 or 16 years younger. Once about 10 years ago, I had to make a long, unexpected trip. Madeline worked hours overtime to get me ready in a hurry, and a few hours after I left, she went to the hospital and had a tumor removed from her back. You can imagine how I felt when I heard it. She knew she would never have been allowed to do that if I had known, so she never said a word or gave a sign. Today, Madeline is at an age when many people are feeble, jobless, and poor. Madeline has stocks and bonds, a steady job, and excellent health. I think she looks younger, too, and she certainly has all her zest for life. Yesterday, when she came in her trim sailor hat and neat coat, I said, "Madeline, you should know how fresh your skin looks and how young you seem." And Madeline said, "Merci, mademoiselle. Maybe someday I'll get married." Maybe she will, if she wants to. As I've watched her operate over the years, I've become convinced that Madeline makes her luck. To me, she and Edison are living proof that to work well, even through hardship and failure, is to serve God and humanity, and through this, to realize one's own great good.
They're the beliefs of Adelaide Carr, a New York newspaper woman with a sprightly imagination and a respect for reality.
Calling all detectives. A man is murdered, and the only clue to his death is a hand of stud poker. That is the situation on this page from my casebook, the casebook of Jerry Browning, private detective. The private detective, like me, Jerry Browning, knows that no matter how lucky a killer seems, murder is always a losing gamble. The Club Coquette is the kind of joint that attracts high society and low characters. It offers blackjack, roulette, chuck-a-luck, and every other standard device for losing your money. The reason I was in the place was because I was being paid to be there. Ace Hogan owned the Coquette. Marty Wilson ran a rival joint out on River Road. Tonight, Ace and Marty were going to bury the hatchet, and my job was to make sure they didn't bury it in each other's heads. The people around the roulette wheel were betting $10 chips like nickels. Right up against the table was young Wade Julian.
Hello, Jerry. How are you doing?
I'm not betting, Julie, just watching.
Lucky you.
These 6 chips are the last of 1,500. Well, here goes nothing. Did I say nothing? I was so right. Excuse me, Jerry. Gotta see Ace. Arranged for a little credit. I watched him go. So, Wade Julian, 4-gold polo player, had gambling debts. Too bad. I walked over to one of the 26 girls, picked up the dice cup, and bet $1 on 5s. I threw 1 5 4 times in a row, and 2 5s for the next 6 rolls. Not so good. Then I felt a hand on my shoulder. Ace Hogan, the boss.
You picked the wrong number, Jerry. You should have took aces like me. Hey, wait a minute. These aren't house dice. This dame is cheating you.
He glared at the girl.
Sister, I don't stand for cheating. Scram out of here and take your crooked ivories with you.
Ace turned on his heel and walked upstairs. A couple of minutes later, Monty Wilson, the rival joint owner, came in, nodded to me, and went upstairs. By then, the dice girl had taken her hat and coat and disappeared. I waited around for Ace and Monty to call me. I waited almost an hour. Then... Ace was upstairs in his office, alone, and very dead. Called in as arbitrator between 2 rival gamblers, I discovered that Ace Hogan, one of the gamblers, had been murdered. Lieutenant Dawson of Homicide stared suspiciously at me.
Jerry, is this all there was on his desk? Just his playing cards?
I nodded. Ace's body lay slumped over the desk, as though he'd made a last desperate attempt to get help, or his killer. In front of him was a deck of cards and a hand of stud poker. The exposed cards were the 2, 3, 4, and 6 of diamonds. I picked up the 5th card, which was face down. It was the ace of spades. Dawson had a theory about that.
Ace was playing 2-handed poker with somebody. They got into a fight. Ace had the losing hand and lost his life, too.
I shrugged. Maybe. Ace was pretty busy tonight. He had a meeting scheduled with Monty Wilson, a run-in with a crooked dice girl, and even Wade Julian, the polo player, wanted to see him. When would he have time to play poker? Dawson didn't know. He was too busy taking down the names I mentioned and ordering the arrest of their owners. But I kept thinking of that poker hand. I went on home after a while and fell asleep dreaming of a straight flush in diamonds ruined by the ace of spades in the hole. I sat up suddenly in bed, said out loud, "The 5 of diamonds is missing," whatever that means. Out of the darkness, a voice answered me.
Don't mean a thing, Jerry. Not a thing.
I blinked as light suddenly flooded the room. After a few seconds, I made out Marty Wilson sitting in a chair and dangling a revolver on one finger.
Honest to goodness, Jerry, I like you, but I'm awful nervous. Don't do anything to make this gun go off.
I feel sorry for nervous people, so I sat real still. Dawson has a warrant for you, Marty.
Yeah, that's why I'm nervous. Guy like me, a gambler, has no chance. They got me convicted in advance. Sure, I talked to Ace, but we got along fine. He was a square guy. We fixed up the major, and I drove back to my own joint. And a fair chance I got of anybody believing me.
Look, Marty, I believe you. And the only chance you've got is to give yourself up.
You're crazy.
Okay, make yourself hard to find and see what happens when they do find you, Marty. He rubbed his chin thoughtfully.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Okay, get dressed and make it snappy. I'm your prisoner.
Dawson was at headquarters by the time we got there, and he wasn't happy about getting out of bed either.
So, decided to give yourself up, Wilson. Sergeant booked this man along with the other 2.
Give him a break, Dawson. He gave himself up voluntarily. And what about the other 2 you've got locked up? They can't all be guilty.
At 2 in the morning, everybody's guilty. I'm going back to bed.
The next day, I got permission to talk to the other prisoners. The 26 girl was sitting alone in a lockup cell. She was still wearing the hat and coat I'd seen her in when she left the Club Coquette. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. She kept insisting that she hadn't meant to cheat me at dice, and anyway, she didn't keep the money for herself, and besides, she wouldn't kill a nice guy like Ace Hogan. I listened for a while and promised to do what I could. In another cell, Wade Julian, the polo player, was a little more self-possessed.
Jerry, I don't know a thing about Ace's murder. Sure, I owed him a lot of money, but I've owed him money before and paid it. I talked to him, and he offered me credit, just as he did before. I didn't have to kill him.
I'll check into it, Julie. My last interview was with Marty, the gambler. I found him sitting on his cot, a deck of cards spread out before him. What are you doing, Marty? Playing solitaire?
Yeah. A guy has to pass the time, doesn't he?
Sure, Marty. Did you play poker with Ace when you saw him? Marty stared at me.
We talk business. Why should we play poker?
There were cards spread out on his desk. A poker hand, just like you've got spread out. Marty grinned.
This ain't poker. It's blackjack. Every gambler plays it by himself to see can he beat himself.
Blackjack? Of course, it had to be that. Marty, in blackjack, the ace counts for 1 or 11. Add to that the 2, 3, 4, and 6, and you have
16 or 26. Why?
26. In his dying moments, Ace named his killer the 26th girl, who killed him because he found out she was a thief. That cracked it. I got the 26th girl upstairs, showed her the card layout. After a while, she lost her nerve and confessed. Ace had tried to make her give back the money she'd stolen with a crooked dice, so she shot him. Just a nice girl. Like I said, every killer thinks he's smarter than other people. But nobody can get away with murder. It isn't in the cards. Listen next time to Calling All Detectives, mystery drama, mystery quiz, and a chance for you to match wits with yours truly, Jerry Browning, Private Detective.
Murder at midnight.
Hook, wait. Come back here.
Wait, nothing. I said you were nuts, crazy. And... No, don't.
I'm sorry, Hook. Very sorry. But I had to have it. I'm going to have it. And once you're dead, you'll never miss it.
Midnight. The witching hour when the night is darkest. Our fears the strongest. And our strength at its lowest ebb. Midnight. When the graves gape open and death strikes. How? You'll learn the answer in just a minute. In The Dead Hand. And now, Murder at Midnight. Tales of terror and retribution by one of radio's best-known mystery writers, Robert Newman. Its title, The Dead Hand. The small studio cottage on Dr. Martin Trent's estate. Seated at the piano, alone in the gathering darkness, is Roger Blaine, the famous pianist, and playing as only he can play.
Can't you hear me, Lorna? You must hear me. You must come here now to me. I'm calling you, Lorna. Calling to you in a way you could never resist. With my music, making your heart beat fast, your breath come quicker. Lorna!
Hello, Roger. Am I disturbing you?
Always, Lorna. Just as I disturb you. As we disturbed each other since the first time we met.
Martin's out. at the hospital, and I heard you playing, so...
That's not why you came, Lorna. You came because I called you. Because you promised you'd come and give me your answer.
What we talked about last night, my going away with you? Roger, I must have been mad. I don't know what got into me.
Don't you, Lorna? This is what got into me. My music. Telling you things I never could tell you in words.
Roger, stop. I can't think when you play like that. I can't believe him. He's my husband. I love him, respect him.
Can you love a surgical instrument? Can you compare what you feel towards him with what you feel now, this minute?
No, it is different. Roger, how can we? He's your friend. It was he that brought you here, gave you the cottage.
And haven't I given him anything? Music like this. Music such as no one has ever heard before.
Roger,
Lorna, listen to me. To what I'm saying here. I love you. I need you. It was you who helped me find depths within myself I never knew existed. You've got to come away with me. You owe it to me. To yourself, to the world.
Roger,
you
please.
You know you want to. And you're going to.
Roger, no, I can't. I tell you,
You are.
All right.
Lorna.
We can talk to Martin when he gets home tonight. Tell him. I think
No, Lorna, there'll be no talking, no explaining. My car's outside and we're leaving right now. The music, my music, was still with me as we drove out through the gates, down the highway, pulsing, throbbing. Yes, I could hear it, but could Lorna? I glanced at her sitting there beside me. Happy, dearest?
What? I don't know, Roger.
You don't know? Don't you realize what this means, Lorna? I'm playing better than I ever played before, and this is only the beginning. After my New York concert, South America, then Europe.
Roger, are you sure you love me? Me as a person?
Well, what do you mean, Lorna?
I know you've said you do, but whenever you've talked about it, Roger, about us, you've talked in terms of your music. Roger, are you sure that's not what you love?
Well, of course I'm sure. If I didn't have my music, if I couldn't play, I don't think I could live.
I know.
It was you. You who lifted me to heights I never dreamed of, technically, emotionally.
Roger, stop the car, turn around, take me back.
What?
Take me back.
I don't understand.
I do, for the first time. With Martin away so much, I was lonely, flattered by your attention. And your music was like a drug, keeping me from thinking. But now I can think. And I know you don't love me, and I don't love you, so please, Roger, take me back.
No.
But, Roger, can't you see this whole thing was a mistake?
It was not a mistake. And I won't take you back.
Well, I'm going back, whether you take me or not, and if you won't stop the car...
No, let go of that brake! Let go! That's it! We're done! We're ready! When I opened my eyes, I was in a bare white room in a hospital. Standing next to the bed were Lorna and Martin.
Hello, Roger. How are you feeling?
What? I don't know. What happened?
You were out driving with Lorna. The car got out of control and you had a smash-up. They rushed you here to the hospital and, well, you've been here for 2 days.
Smash-up? Yes, I remember. Are you all right, Lorna?
Yes, Roger, I was shaken up.
Oh, my hand hurts. Especially the fingers. Nothing happened to it, did it, Martin? I've got a concert in a few weeks, you know.
Roger, don't stop it.
What? Why are you looking at me like that?
Don't worry about it, Roger. Not now.
But I've got to know. I've got to...
Roger, please.
Gone. Gone. My hand. My left hand. Martin. What did you do to me?
Roger, I think you know how I feel about you. About your music. You've got to believe me when I tell you there was nothing I could do about it. Nothing. It was your hand or your life.
My life? And what is my life without my music? Nothing. Worse than a living death. Why didn't you let me die?
Don't say that, Roger. We'll do anything we can. There must be something.
Something? There's just one thing. You've got to get me another hand.
We will, Roger. There have been some wonderful developments in prosthetics as a result
No,
of the war.
I don't mean an artificial hand. I mean a real hand. What?
Roger, you're mad.
No, I'm not. You took my hand and you'll get me another one.
We'll talk about it some other time.
You think I'll forget about it, don't you? Don't you? Oh, I won't. I say I'm going to have another hand, and I will have one. And what's more, you're going to help me get it. You're here. You're going to help me. I was able to get up and around a few days later. I didn't talk to anyone if I could help it. Because somehow I couldn't ever look at their faces. Only their hands. Big hands and little ones. Long-fingered ones and stubby ones. Yes. They each had two hands. And I to whom my piano meant more than life, had only one. Then, sitting alone one evening, I met Hawk. I looked up, and there he was, a small, slight, sharp-featured man.
Hello. Nice evening.
Yes, I suppose it is.
You mind if I sit down for a couple of minutes?
No.
I wouldn't usually bust in on anybody except that... Well, I'm getting out of here tomorrow, and I feel pretty good about it.
Oh? What was wrong with you?
Bad heart. I'm going to have to take it easy from now on. It's going to make it kind of tough in some ways, but... you don't happen to have a cigarette on you, do you?
Well, yes, I do have. It's, there. Well, at least I did have. Silver cigarette case. Can't see.
Is,
Fine.
this it?
What? Well, yeah. Where did you find it?
In your pocket.
You mean you took it?
My name's Harris, Joe Harris. You usually call me the Hook. This is my racket. Or rather, it was until
You're a pickpocket.
Well, wanted the best of business. But now with my ticket going bad, I guess I'll have to lay off, except like now for a gag. You didn't mind, did you?
Well, certainly not. I'm very impressed. As a matter of fact, do you mind if I look at your hands?
Look at it? What for?
Beautiful. As beautiful a pair of hands as I've ever seen. It occurs to me that you say that you don't know what you're going to do when you leave the hospital here.
Well, I just hadn't thought about it much. Why?
I've got a proposition that might possibly interest you.
No kidding. What?
Well, I'd rather not discuss it with you here and now, but I expect to be leaving here myself on Friday. If you'd like to come and see me sometime after...
You say where and when?
Well, I've been staying at a little cottage on Dr. Martin Trent's estate. I'll probably be going back there. How about Saturday night? Late, around 11:30.
Fine. Okay with me.
Then it's a date. I left him there, hurried back to my room. I wanted to be alone. Had to be alone, for I was afraid that what was on my mind might show in my face. It certainly was a date. A date with death.
A man obsessed, half mad, and his unsuspecting victim. Will both of them still be alive to hear it when the clock strikes 12 for... Murder at midnight. And now, here is Roger Blaine to continue Murder at Midnight.
I did leave the hospital on Friday, went back to the little studio cottage. By Saturday night, my arrangements were completed. They weren't very complicated. I made it clear to Lorna and Martin that I wanted to be alone, and I picked up a length of iron pipe. The pipe I hid inside the piano when I heard footsteps coming down the path. There was a knock on the door. Come in?
Hi. Not too late, am I?
No, you're not too late.
Hey, pretty nice place you got here.
Yes, it is quite nice. Sit down.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Now, what's this here proposition you want to talk to me about?
It's a very simple one. How would you like to make $10,000?
What do I have to do?
You don't have to do anything. Just sell me something. Your left hand.
What? You're nuts.
No, I'm serious. I've got the money right here in cash.
I don't get it. I just don't understand.
Look, I'm a musician. I'm a pianist. Or I was until I lost my hand. If I can't go on playing, then life doesn't mean anything to me. My own life or anyone else's. But you, how important is your hand to you? Now, an artificial one will do almost as well. And you can live for quite a while on $10,000.
You mean you really thought I'd sell you my hand? Let you cut it off? I'm getting out of here.
Look, wait.
Wait, nothing. I said you was nuts, but I didn't really think... What are you going to do with that? No, don't you care. Some way, somehow I'll get you for this. I swear.
I'm sorry, Hook. Very sorry. But I have to have it. I'd rather not go into what happened after that. I got rid of the body. Then I went to see Martin.
You don't look well, Roger. Anything the matter?
No, I just came to see you about your promise.
My promise?
Oh, your debt, whichever you choose to call it. I told you I wanted another hand, that I was going to get another hand, and that you were going to help me. Well, now you can help me.
What do you mean?
Look in here. Inspect. See?
Good Lord. Where did you get this?
It might be better if you didn't ask too many questions. I'm fighting for my life, for more than my life. You took my hand away from me. Well, now you can give me this one.
You mean you honestly, seriously think that I can perform an operation of this sort, do a graft, and that after I'm finished, you'll be able to use the hand?
Why not? Operations of this sort have been done, haven't they? With other parts of the body? The eye?
The cornea, not the eye. And some nerve grafting has been done. But this... Look, Roger, I know what a shock this whole thing has been to you. Know it better than you. You're not a well man.
A well man? I'm only half alive. And I'd rather be dead than go on living this way. But if I do die, I won't die alone. That's why I brought this along.
Roger.
Got it. Quick, easy, painless. If you won't do what I want, you die. And so does Lorna. Both of you, along with me.
You don't give me very much choice.
No.
All right. You win. Get me to the hospital.
Even before I became fully conscious, before I opened my eyes, I knew that it had been done. That it wasn't his hand anymore, but mine. Still, there was something wrong. I couldn't analyze what it was at first, but it was there. A feeling that something wasn't quite right. That perhaps it wasn't entirely my hand. I sat up. The hand was a mass of bandages, stiffened with splints. And inside the bandages...
Careful, Roger. Don't touch them.
Huh? Oh, Martin, I didn't see you.
I've been here with you ever since last night.
Last night? You mean I've been out that long? 24 hours?
It was very important that you keep quiet. You've been under sedation.
Oh, yes, of course. This isn't the hospital.
No. I brought you home with me, back to the house.
Oh.
I thought it would be best for several reasons.
Oh, that's very smart, Martin. We don't want any questions, do we? Not yet. You did do it, didn't you?
What? Yes.
I knew you would. Good. And it's going to work. It is working. I can feel it.
Please, Roger, you must be careful with that bandage. You can't touch it, move it, disturb it in any way.
I won't, Martin. But I don't have to. I tell you, I can feel the fingers moving, even inside this. And in another week or so...
We'll see.
Yes, we'll see. Got a cigarette, Martin?
Of course, I have it right. That's funny.
What is?
Well, a cigarette case. It was right here in my breast pocket. I must have left it downstairs or at the hospital.
It doesn't matter. I can do it. Look. Martin.
Yes?
I think... Here, this here. Here it is. Under my pillow.
What? How did it get there?
I don't know. It must have fallen out when you bent over. But... No.
Why are you looking like that?
Because... I think I know how it did get under my pillow.
What do you mean?
When fingers learn something, special skill, they don't forget it, ever. Mine never have. Even when I'm not thinking of what I'm doing, they go on playing by themselves. These fingers here, they haven't forgotten either. You understand?
I'm afraid I...
I'm awfully tired all of a sudden, Martin. Would you mind?
No, Roger. I'd like you to get as much rest as possible. There's a friend of mine coming here tomorrow to see you. The doctor.
That's fine, Martin. I'll see you in the morning. Yes, I was tired, but that wasn't why I asked Martin to go. It was because I wanted to be alone, because I had to be alone. Because I knew now what it was that I'd only sensed before. The hand, Hook's hand, had a will of its own. It had picked Martin's pocket without my even being aware of it. I lay there alone in the darkness after Martin went, not touching the bandages, but flexing the fingers, forcing them to obey my will. I had to do that. I knew I had to do it, because I suspected what might happen. And what did happen proved that I was right. I fell asleep finally. And while I was asleep, I dreamed. I dreamed I was walking down a dark, labyrinthine corridor somewhere under the earth. Then...
A little closer, Roger.
Huh?
Just a little closer.
Who's that? Who's there?
Just me. Waiting for you.
Hook!
Yeah, Hook. I said I'd get you.
Well, out of the darkness came a hand that clutched me by the throat, gripped it tighter. Tighter! I fought against it. Tried to scream. And woke up. Yes, I woke up. And my waking was more horrible than the dream, for the hand was there, gripping me by the throat, moaning, exerting every ounce of my strength and will. I fought it off and pulled it down. I lay there, bathed in a cold sweat, staring at it, feeling the fingers quivering inside the bandages. My hand or his, I was tied to it now. Tied to a thing that was seeking to destroy me. Shaking convulsively, I leaped out of bed. I ran out into the hall and down the stairs to the living room. The piano. It was the one thing that might save me, save my reason. Seating myself at the piano, I started to play, using only my right hand at first. But I tried to force the left hand, his hand, to join in. Then suddenly...
No, Roger. That won't work. No music.
Stop it. Stop it. Do you hear it? It's my hand now. It's mine.
No, Roger. Never.
But it is. I'm stronger than you are.
Nothing is stronger than I am. Nothing in the world. And there's no escape. Because we're one now, Roger. And wherever you go, I'll be there too.
It's not true. It's not. What are you doing?
Just a little closer to the desk, Roger. A little closer. That paper knife.
Damn.
But I can't, Roger. I told you I'd get you somehow. Some way.
Put it down.
Drop. You can't fight against me, Roger. I told you. I'm too strong.
Martha! Quick! Let us see!
behind the piano and... Good Lord.
Mark!
He's dead.
Why? How? He was saying something about a hand.
He was in a completely psychotic state as a result of shock and a sense of guilt. The state psychiatrist was coming tomorrow to commit him.
Oh, Martin.
That hand he brought me wanted me to graft on. I don't know where he got it, but I suspect that was behind the whole thing.
Behind it?
Yes.
Well, what do you mean?
You don't really think I did graft it on, do you?
Why?
He was desperate, and I had to do something to quiet him. I splinted his left wrist, wrapped it in bandages, and told him not to touch them.
But, Martin, that paper knife in his chest.
Which hand is holding it?
His right one, his good one.
Yes. And still, in a way, it's possible that the dead hand, the one he was so concerned about, did guide it.
Her eyes wide with awful comprehension, Lorna stares at her husband, then down at Roger Blaine's body as, somewhere in the silent house, a clock starts chiming for murder at midnight. Remember to be with us again when death stretches out his bony hand and the clocks strike 12 for murder at midnight. With music by Charles Paul, Murder at Midnight is directed by Anton M. Leader.
This, I believe. Adlai E. Stevenson was the Democratic candidate for the office of President of the United States in 1952. His voice and political ideas are known to all. Here now are the personal beliefs of Adlai Stevenson.
What do I believe? As an American, I believe in generosity, in liberty, in the rights of man. These are social and political faiths that are part of me, as they are, I suppose, part of all of us. Such beliefs are easy to express, but part of me, too, is my religion, my relation to all life. And this is not so easy to talk about. Religious experience is highly intimate, and for me, at least, ready words are not at hand. I am profoundly aware of the magnitude of the universe, that all is ruled by law, including my finite person. I believe in the infinite wisdom that envelops and embraces me, and from which I take direction, purpose, strength. First to my mind there spring those words of the 27th Psalm, my favorites. For in the time of trouble, the Lord shall hide me in his pavilion. He shall set me up upon a rock. I had fainted, unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Yes, I believe in and I have experienced his goodness in the land of the living, and I have found no rocks of certainty or safety but his. But having beliefs, or at least enunciating them, is only part of it. Living up to them, for me, is much harder. For as someone said, it is easier to fight for one's beliefs than to live up to them. And I wonder if the chief cause of discord in human affairs is not so much the undesirable nature of beliefs as it is the fighting for them, the competitive indoctrination among them. I believe in liberalism, in individualism, in freedom of conscience. And if there is anything that the whole idea of liberalism contradicts, it is the notion of competitive indoctrination. So I believe that if we really want human brotherhood to spread and increase until it makes life safe and sane, we must also be certain that there is no one true faith or path by which it may spread. Difference is in the nature of life. It is part of our moral universe. Without difference, life would become lifeless. So I reject the idea of conformity, compulsory or complacent. The faith that is swallowed like pills, whole and at once, with no questions asked. I believe in helping ourselves and others to see the possibilities and viewpoints other than one's own, in urging the fullest, the most vigorous use of critical self-examination. Thus we can learn to unite in our common search for the truth within a better and a happier world. The basic faith and liberty of conscience is by no means exclusive with us, but I believe we are its ordained guardians in this age of assault and anxiety, when so many seem to believe their doubts and to doubt their beliefs. Finally, I should like to live, and not just believe, these strong words of faith in St. Paul's letter to the Galatians. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ has made us free, and not be entangled with the yoke of bondage.
Calling Nick Carter. Another case for Nick Carter, master detective.
Yes, it's another case for that most famous of all manhunters, the detective whose ability at solving crime is unequaled in the history of detective fiction. Nick Carter, master detective. Tonight's curious adventure is
The Echo of Death, or Nick Carter and the Phantom Clue.
No, please, don't kill me. Don't kill me.
Hold him still. They're just like that. This has got to look right.
No, I'll do anything you say. I'll forget everything I know. Only don't...
All right. He's dead. Now, come on.
Hello? Yes, this is Nick Carter speaking. A case? What kind of case? A disappearance. Well, that's hardly my line. Oh, I see. Yes. Yes. Yes, I understand. All right, expect us late this afternoon. Did you get that on the extension, Patsy?
I should say so. Echo Valley Lodge, private amphibian plane waiting for you at the airport. Come at once, never mind the sea. Who is this Howard Manstead who tosses money around like confetti?
A well-known millionaire sportsman, Patsy. But wouldn't it be more to the point to ask about the man who's disappeared?
Oh, you mean James Thurlow, the columnist. Why, he... Hey, who is he, anyway?
That's what you get for not reading the financial pages of the paper, Patsy. Well, come along. We've got to find a taxi and get to the airport.
Well, aren't we going to take anything with us?
Oh, yes, of course. I was forgetting.
I thought you were. I'll need my new dress.
You want Scubby. Call him and tell him to meet us at the airport. He knows Thurlow. They write for the same paper.
But why aren't we going to...
Oh, and one other thing, Patsy. Bring along Volume 3 of the Encyclopedia, E to H.
Scubby Wilson and Volume 3 of an encyclopedia. That's just what a girl needs for a visit to a millionaire's hunting lodge. Though seldom visited because of its somewhat inaccessible location, Echo Valley is a natural freak of singular interest.
I have friends you could say the same thing about, but the encyclopedia doesn't mention them.
Quiet, Scubby. Let Patsy finish reading.
Echo Valley is of great interest to scientists. sounds occurring in certain areas of Echo Valley may be repeated as many as 13 times, echoing from cliff to cliff in gradually diminishing volume.
Why do encyclopedias always use so many words to say so little?
That's what I wonder about newspaper reporters sometimes, too.
So we'll change the subject? What else does it say?
That's all.
Well, that's no help. Thurlow certainly wasn't carried off by an echo.
Oh, he's probably just lost in the woods.
In any case, I don't see why Manstead insisted on you coming out to look for him, Nick. You're no Indian guide.
Patsy, if Thurlow isn't found alive, it may cost the public millions.
Millions? Well, he's just a columnist, isn't he?
Just a columnist? He's the smartest financial reporter in New York.
And Thurlow's more than just a reporter, Patsy. In the financial column he writes, he sometimes tips the authorities off to big stock swindles and other kinds of financial skullduggery.
Right. It was Thurlow who broke open the Nemo Bank scandal 3 years ago and sent the whole board of directors to prison.
And for some time, Patsy, Thurlow has been hinting in his column that he was on the verge of revealing some kind of tie-up between certain politicians and one or two big operators that would rob the public of millions.
Oh, then if anything happened to him now, before he's had a chance to tell anybody what he knew, the scheme would go through his schedule.
Right. That's why he went to Echo Valley Lodge. Manstead, an old friend of his, invited him out so he could work in peace for a few weeks.
Scubby.
Huh?
Is it true that Thurlow was on the verge of a nervous breakdown when he left?
Oh, he was walking around in circles talking to himself, Nick. He had almost all the dope he wanted, but he still hadn't got the name of the guy behind the whole scheme. He took along a whole bunch of records of stock transactions. He said they might give him the clue he needed. And, hey, look, ahead of us.
Echo Valley. It is, isn't it, Nick?
No doubt of it, Patsy.
But look, that isn't any Echo flying toward us.
A plane. Nick, it's a plane flying up out of Echo Valley.
Yes. Yes, it's a private amphibian.
I thought this plane of Manstead's was the only one in these parts.
Now, the pilot's seen us. Huh. He's turning out of our line of flight.
You suppose he wants to avoid us?
I'll bet he doesn't want us to see his markings.
He is trying to avoid us.
Oh, pilot, swing over so we can get a look at that plane down there.
Right, Mr. Carter.
He knows we're trying to get closer to him.
Look at him bank to avoid us.
He's turned back. He's heading away from us now.
Oh, pilot, overtake that plane if you can.
Yes, Mr. Carter.
Say, isn't that the Manstead hunting lodge down there, right on the edge of the lake?
Yes, Cubby, it is. But we're not going to land until we get some idea what that plane's up to.
Look, he's diving straight down now.
He's going to try to get away underneath us.
Oh, he'll never make it. Those private planes aren't built.
His wing is breaking off.
Couldn't take the strain.
He's heading straight for the ground if he hasn't got a parachute.
Oh, but he has. Look, he's jumping. The chute's opening.
And there goes his plane into the trees. Well, that was a narrow escape. He didn't have more than 500 feet of altitude.
Oh, he's come down on the top of that tall pine. He's caught there. See, his parachute won't come loose.
Yes. Well, we'll have to land and rescue him. Besides, I want to know why he was so anxious to avoid having his plane identified. Oh, pilot.
Yes, Mr. Carter.
Land in the lake and taxi up as close as possible to the place that fellow came down.
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute, Patsy. I'll lift this one up for you. There you
Watch
are.
out for the branch doesn't snap back in your face, Patsy.
Oh. Well, aren't we almost there?
Yes, there's the clearing. Just ahead. Only a few more steps.
Oh, and they say exercise is good for you.
Oh, there. There's his parachute. I think I can see him hanging among the branches.
He's hurt or he'd call to us. Come on.
His shroud lines are caught among the branches. I can see that much.
Well, he's just dangling there.
Yeah.
Hey, you up there. Can you hear us? You all right?
He doesn't answer. Look, I'll climb up and see if I can...
No. Wait.
What is it, Nick?
Look at those shroud lines.
They're wrapped around his neck.
Yeah. Look at the way his head is twisted to one side.
Yes. His neck's broken. He's dead.
What?
Oh. When he landed in the tree, he got tangled in the lines and...
I wonder.
Nick, what do you mean?
Look down at your feet, Scubby.
Huh? Cigarette butt.
What? Somebody must have been here before us.
Maybe. But its position makes me think the cigarette was smoked by him up there.
Oh, but that's impossible, Nick.
It's been just about an hour, Scubby, since he crashed. He knew we'd come after him. So if he was hurt and couldn't get out of his chute harness, what would be more natural than for him to smoke a cigarette and wait to be rescued?
But he's dead.
Because somebody reached him before we did and murdered him.
And so that's the story, Mr. Carter. As much as we know, anyway. Thurlow just wandered away yesterday morning and never returned.
I see, Mr. Manson. And you don't think this mysterious airplane we met just before we reached here has any connection with Thurlow's vanishing?
Well, I don't see how it could. But then, as I said, I haven't the slightest idea where the plane could have come from or who was flying it.
Yeah. Now, let's go over the facts again, if you don't mind.
Oh, of course not.
Thurlow arrived here a week ago?
Yes, with his wife. I had them flown in my plane. They had the lodge to themselves with my permanent housekeeper to look after them.
And you arrived yesterday?
In the middle of the afternoon.
But Thurlow wasn't here when you arrived?
No, he'd already gone out. He told his wife he was taking his revolver along and would take pot shots at the trees and rocks.
So you never actually saw him?
That's right. The woodsman I employ to look after the property asked me to come and examine some trees he wanted to cut down. About sundown, I got back to the lodge, and Thurlow still hadn't returned. Mrs. Thurlow was becoming worried. I ordered the floodlights we use for landing the plane at night, but he didn't show up.
And then in the morning, you called me.
Well, first I phoned the nearest forest ranger station. And after that, Mrs. Thurlow was so agitated, I promised I'd send for you.
Where is Mrs. Thurlow? I'd like to ask a few questions.
Well, she's sleeping now. She was up all night, and this morning the housekeeper gave her a sleeping tablet. Shall we wake her?
No, not just now. There's still an hour of daylight left. I'd like to take a look around outside. Perhaps
I'll open it.
Mr. Manstead.
Johnny, what is it?
His hat. We found it.
Thurlow's hat? Where?
Near the waterfall.
Why, that's not far. It's only a mile from here. It's still light. Do you want to come with us and look for him, Mr. Carter?
Yes, I think I do.
Oh, gosh, my ankle. Oh, boy.
There's the hat, Mr. Manstead. In that bush.
But what in the world could Thurlow have been doing in here? This isn't the trail to the waterfall.
It isn't a trail at all as far as I'm concerned. It's a jungle.
It used to be a trail to an old one-room cabin, but there's no reason Thurlow would go there.
Well, maybe if we yell, he'll hear us. He might be in there with a busted ankle or something.
Go ahead and try, Scubby.
Thurlow! Thurlow! Good gosh, will you listen to that?
Well, that's one reason this is called Echo Valley. The cliffs around the waterfall down the trail make a perfect sounding board.
Well, if he didn't hear that, he must be dead.
If there's a cabin in there, we'd better take a look at it.
Right. I don't see what in the world Thurlow could have come this way for, but maybe he did. Let's find out. There it is.
Where, Manstead?
Oh, there, between those two trees. See it?
Oh, yes.
It's only another 40 yards.
Well, come on, then.
Oh, Scubby. Wait.
Well, sure, Nick. What is it?
That bare patch of ground there. Those footprints.
Thurlow's footprints.
You sure, Scubby?
Sure. I've seen those pointed shoes of his too often not to recognize the footprints anyplace. Come on, Nick.
Yes. I'm coming. Thurlow's a tall man, isn't he, Scubby?
He's a tall man like I'm Henry Ford. He's about 5'5". Why?
I thought that... Well, never mind. There's the cabin.
Gosh, it doesn't look as if it had been opened in years.
Well, it hasn't that I know of.
But there are Thurlow's footprints going right up to the door.
And somebody's opened the door recently. Look at these broken spider webs around the door jamb. But it won't open now.
Here, let me try. It ought to open without any trouble.
Yeah, but it doesn't budge.
That's strange. Let's take a look through the window.
The window's boarded over. The boards haven't been touched.
I nailed the window up myself 3 years ago. Nobody came here since.
And someone has come here. Thurlow. And he must be inside now.
But the window hasn't been touched, and the door is barred on the inside.
Looks bad. We'd better break the door down.
Suppose we have old Johnny use his axe on it. That'll be quicker.
Of course. Johnny, smash the door open for us.
Stand back, please.
That door was locked to stay locked.
Starting to go.
That does it. It's open.
If you don't mind, I'd like to go in first.
Of course. It's dark inside. Here, take my flashlight.
Thanks.
There he is. Thurlow.
He's dead. He came here, bolted himself in, and shot himself with his own revolver.
Yes, he's dead, all right. And it does look like suicide, doesn't it?
Now, Mrs. Thurlow.
Jim couldn't have killed himself, Mr. Carter. He couldn't have.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Thurlow. I wouldn't intrude on your grief if it wasn't necessary. Now, first of all, what kind of mood was your husband in yesterday morning just before he disappeared?
He was very agitated.
Agitated? Well, do you know any reason why he should have been?
I think he just found a clue to the identity of the man he was seeking. The one behind this plot to upset the stock market.
Did he say who it was?
No, he just said he'd stumbled on a clue. And he was so shocked he could hardly believe the evidence. That was why he went out into the woods. He wanted to be alone to think the matter through.
Perhaps his notes will tell us what he found.
I thought of that, Nick. After Mrs. Thurlow woke up and I talked to her while you and Scubby were out with Mr. Manstead, we tried to read his notes. But they're in some kind of a shorthand that nobody can read but himself.
I can make out a few words here and there, but not enough to help.
Well, we'll have another try at it later. Please go on, Mrs. Thurlow.
Well, that's almost all, Mr. Carter. Jim went out about 10 in the morning. I stayed here in my room reading. About half an hour later, I thought I heard a shot. All of a sudden, I was terribly frightened.
Frightened? Of what?
I don't know. It was just a feeling. Then I heard the far-off echo of somebody hammering. It was... Oh, it sounded like somebody hammering down the lid of a coffin. And I'm positive it meant that Jim was dead.
Probably someone chopping down a tree, she heard, Nick. Anyway, she went back to her reading and forgot about it. Then around 1, Manstead phoned from the village, a little town about 10 miles from the hills, for Johnny to come for him in a station wagon.
Manstead phoned? But didn't he fly in by plane yesterday?
Seems not. The plane was in New York getting a new propeller, so he took the night train.
Is that so?
Anyway, Johnny went to meet him. He got here about 2:30. The rest of the story is just the way he told it to us. Nick Thurlow must have killed himself. There just isn't any other answer.
I wonder, Patsy. I wonder. Hello? Yes, speaking. Did you get the dope I wanted? He was? And the plane? Then check every airfield within 50 miles of the city. Yes, I know it's a big order, but somebody's playing this game for big stakes. No, that's all. Call me back when you've learned something.
Hello, Carter. I didn't know anybody was here in the library.
I took the liberty of phoning New York. I was trying to check on that mysterious plane that we saw crash yesterday afternoon.
I see. Did you learn anything?
Nothing yet.
You know, I have a theory about that plane, Carter.
I'd be interested to hear it, Mr. Manstead.
Well, we're only 100 miles from the border, and in the past, planes engaged in smuggling aliens into this country have landed in this region. Now, I'm willing to wager this chap, who was so anxious to avoid being seen, was engaged in doing something like that.
Certainly sounds plausible.
Nick! Oh, Nick!
Oh, yes, Scubby.
Oh, there you are. Oh, top of the morning to you, Mr. Manstead.
Good morning.
Say, I was looking for the two of you. Forest Ranger Thompson and 2 of his men are down at the landing waiting in your launch, Mr. Manstead. They want to get started down the lake to bring in the body of that flyer who was so unlucky when he bailed out of his plane yesterday.
Of course. You're coming with us, aren't you, Carter?
Yes, indeed. I'm just as interested as you are to see if your theory turns out to be right.
Oh, what about Patsy? Shall I go find her?
Oh, no, Scubby. She's staying here in the lodge with Mrs. Thurlow. They're going to spend the morning going over Thurlow's notes, trying to decipher them.
Well, let's get going. I want to get back in time to phone a story to my paper.
I was afraid it's no use, Miss.
Please, just call me Patsy.
It's just impossible to read these notes of Jim's, Patsy. They're not only in his own shorthand, but most of them are in code, too.
Here's something that seems as if it might mean something. See, it says, I can HB it.
HB. Hardly believe. I can hardly believe it.
Yeah.
Of course, that's what it means.
And here's some more. It's clearer. Shall I tell Manstead what I know?
The next line. Better not.
Instead, must get back to New York. Well, that's clear enough.
But the next line. My life, MB, ND. That doesn't mean anything to me.
My life, MB, ND. My life may be in danger.
Oh.
And then there's just one last sentence that he never finished. To think that the one man in the world. And that's all there is.
Oh, if it only finished.
To think that the one man in the world. Oh, who do you suppose he could have meant?
I can't even make a guess.
The one man. Mrs. Thurlow.
What's that?
Mrs. Thurlow, we're going to go and take a look at that cabin now while all the others are away. I have a theory, and we're going to find some evidence to prove it. It has to be there. It just has to be.
Hello, Nick, my friend. Hey, what's troubling you? You've been sitting out here on this rock for an hour ever since we got back, looking mean enough to bite your grandmother.
Scubby, that poor devil of an aviator whose body we brought in was murdered. And Thurlow was murdered. And I can't prove it.
But, Nick, couldn't you be wrong? The aviator certainly looked like a natural accident. And Thurlow, if I ever saw a case that looked more like suicide, well, I don't know where it was.
Well, that's just it. The aviator I can explain. Someone slipped through the woods, reached him before we did, climbed the tree he was caught in, and strangled him with the shroud lines in his parachute while pretending to help free him.
But, Thurlow, his own footprints leading into the cabin. The window boarded over and the door bolted on the inside. If somebody killed him, well, how did they get out?
I don't know, Scubby. It isn't possible. Yet it was done. I'm going to break the... Hey, Scubby, what's that in your hand?
Oh, just a shiny new nail I picked up somewhere. Somebody must have been fixing something.
A nail? And Mrs. Thurlow said she heard the echo of hammer blows the morning her husband died.
Yeah, said they sounded like somebody hammering down the lid of a coffin. They sure have imagination.
But that's just what she did hear.
Huh?
She heard the echoes of somebody nailing down the lid of a coffin.
But there must be a clue. There must be.
But we've been all over the cabin inside and out a dozen times now, Patsy. If there was anything here, we'd have found it.
Mrs. Thurlow, somehow your husband was murdered here, and his body left inside this cabin so it would look like suicide. And I'm going to find out how the murderer got out, leaving the door and window bolted, or die.
I'm afraid you're much more likely to die, Patsy.
Oh, Mr. Manstead.
Yes, Mr. Manstead. After we returned to the lodge and I learned the two of you had disappeared in this direction, I thought I'd better find out what you were up to.
You killed my husband.
Of course he did. Who else could your husband have meant by the one man in the world he'd never have believed guilty?
But he was Jim's friend.
That's what he wanted you to think. He pretended to be a friend so he could always keep checking what your husband learned. And he invited you both here so he could commit murder if he decided it was necessary.
A very interesting theory. But I'm afraid I can't give you a chance to tell it to anyone else. Johnny.
Right here, Mr. Manstead.
Come inside and close the door.
What are you going to do to us?
He thinks he's going to kill us. He hasn't got that gun in his hand for fun.
Johnny, the old mine shaft is close by. Now, if these two ladies out walking had the misfortune to stumble into it, It would be very tragic, wouldn't it?
Lots of people fall down old mine shafts.
So they do. And I'm afraid another such accident is about to happen.
You can't get away with it, Mr. Manstead. Nick Carter won't let you.
Oh, well, perhaps even clever Mr. Carter may have to have an accident. Help me silence him, Johnny. Quickly.
No, Nick!
Quiet.
No!
Quiet, I say. All right, now, Johnny. Knock them both on the head and keep them quiet.
All right, Manstead. Let go of her.
You, Carter.
Nick, look out, his gun!
Drop it, Manstead.
Johnny, kill him. Kill him.
Johnny, put down that axe or I'll shoot.
Yes, sir.
He's dead.
I'm afraid so. Patsy, either of you hurt?
No, Nick. You came just in time. But how?
How did I know Manstead was a murderer? I knew that from the time we found this cabin. But it took an echo to prove it. The echo, Mrs. Thurlow, that you said sounded like someone hammering.
But I don't understand.
Scubby's bringing Ranger Thompson. As soon as they get here, I think I'll be able to clear up a lot of mysteries. So Manstead was behind the plot that Thurlow uncovered. He invited Thurlow here in order to find out what he knew. He discovered Thurlow had evidence which would tell him the truth, and therefore decided to eliminate Thurlow.
But, Mr. Carter, Manstead didn't get here until after Thurlow was dead. He came by train.
Oh, Ranger Thompson's right, Nick.
He appeared to come by train. Actually, he flew in the night before in a plane whose pilot was used to taking big fees for keeping his mouth shut. That was the plane that we saw crash. Something delayed it from leaving in time to avoid us, and in the pilot's effort to keep away from us, well, we all know what happened.
But, Nick, why was the pilot murdered?
That was Johnny's work. As soon as Thurlow saw the crash, he sent Johnny by a secret trail through the woods to make sure the pilot didn't live to talk. Otherwise, his murder scheme would have collapsed. Isn't that right, Johnny?
Yes, sir.
So Manstead flew here the night before he murdered Thurlow. In the morning, when Thurlow left the house, he and Johnny waylaid him. Is that it, Nick?
That's it, Patsy. They brought him to the cabin here. Manstead put on his victim's shoes and made a trail of footprints.
I see.
Then they killed Thurlow, put his shoes back on him, and left him in the locked cabin. A clear case of suicide. But Manstead made a mistake there. His footprints were too far apart. They were the steps of a tall man. When Scubby said Thurlow was a short man, I began to suspect.
Well, it certainly does sound plausible, Mr. Carter. But you still got to convince me Manstead could get out of that cabin and leave the door barred from the inside.
Make it good, Nick.
Johnny knows the answer. You all remember that Mrs. Thurlow said she heard the echo of hammer blows.
You mean she really did hear someone hammering?
Exactly. This is a small cabin with a roof lightly nailed in place. Now look up there. What's that flashing in the sun?
Looks like nail heads.
Somebody's hammered new nails into that roof all along this side.
Nick, is that the clue I was looking for?
That's the clue you were looking for. Scubby and I saw it yesterday, but we weren't smart enough to know what it meant. Here, I'll take Johnny's axe and push the blade in under the eaves and pry upward like that.
Well, the whole roof's lifting up.
Well, blow me down.
Manstead and Johnny pried up the flimsy roof before they killed Thurlow. Then, leaving the door barred, they climbed out. And Johnny nailed the roof back into place.
Right. So they were hammering the lid on the coffin, so to speak. Thurlow's coffin. And due to the curious echoing qualities of the rocks, the sound carried to the lodge, and Mrs. Thurlow heard it. I didn't think it meant anything until I noticed the nail Scubby picked up someplace. The nail Johnny must have dropped. And then I remembered the hammering sound Mr. Thurlow spoke of. And suddenly the whole thing was clear.
Well, it sure wouldn't have been clear to me if you hadn't explained it, Mr. Carter. I certainly wouldn't ever have worked it out with just an echo for a clue.
Oh, but that was an unusual echo. Remember how cleverly it answered?
And when it comes to answers, Scubby, Nick Carter is the man who gets them.
This was another strange experience of Nick Carter called The Echo of Death, or Nick Carter and the Phantom Clue. The curious adventures of Nick Carter, Master Detective, are brought to you every Monday night at 9:30 Eastern Wartime. We'll let Nick himself tell you about next week's story. What'll it be about, Nick?
I call it Death Across the Tracks. It began with the murder of a detective.
A railroad detective who lived in the station alongside the tracks. He was working on a case, but he had it only partly solved when he was murdered.
And I picked it up from there.
I'll say you did, Nick. You almost picked up a few bullets into the bargain the way the victim did. When you called it death across the tracks, you were right in more ways than one.
This sounds more and more intriguing. And how did it wind up, Nick?
Well, we'll tell you that next week. But I can say this much. I had a stroke of luck.
Nick always calls it luck when he uses foresight. Good night, folks.
Yes, good night, folks.
And good night, Patsy and Nick. In tonight's strange adventure, Nick Carter was impersonated by Lon Clark. Patsy was impersonated by Helen Choate. Original music was played by Lou White. The entire production was under the direction of Jock McGregor. Next week at 9:30 Eastern Wartime, listen to another curious adventure of Nick Carter entitled
Death Across the Tracks, or Nick Carter and the Mystery of the Midnight Train.
This story is a copyrighted feature of Street and Smith Publications, Incorporated. And here's a special note. Beginning next week, Nick Carter will be heard over most of these same stations on Mondays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Wartime. The Cisco Kid will be presented on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Wartime. This is Mutual.
This I believe. Agnes Moorehead is one of America's best-loved and most versatile actresses. She taught and did graduate work in drama before going on the stage, and is thus the possessor of a solid theoretical background in her art, as well as uniquely broad radio, stage, and screen experience. Most recently, she distinguished herself by her reading of Shaw's Don Juan in Hell. This is what Agnes Moorehead believes.
What you are to be, you are now becoming. How often these words echo in my brain as the years fly by. It was a favorite saying of the president of my college. My life has been ruled by my belief. I'm a fundamentalist and believe in the efficacy of prayer. I believe that one should work for the glory of God and not for personal glory. I believe that great joy comes when one hungers after self-improvement. Of course, it's human to enjoy fame, but strangely enough, I believe that anonymity contributes to such joy. As a man thinketh, so is he. Man's thoughts are his feelings. I believe that one should not entertain false ideas about himself. I believe in having the moral courage to say and do what one thinks is right. One can be semi-starved for truth. I believe this truth is his inner spring of vision and action. What is more honorable than having clear sight and the courage to maintain it? I believe such clarity is very rare. Beauty is truth, but truth is only one of the elements of one's ultimate aim. I believe that one cannot create nobility without being noble. I am in a creative profession, a creative art that is not stimulated or inspired by drudgery or vileness or meanness. An actor's life is difficult. It requires study and work of many kinds. It requires bravery, forbearance, and self-sacrifice. The punishment for transgressions is great. I believe the partaking of the Spirit, this inner spring of truth, the clarity of thought, the hunger for self-improvement, courage and integrity are vital to the artist in his ability to reach man's heart. As all arts have a bearing on our time and will live beyond it, so a creative artist must sound the notes of human passion which are common to all mankind. Who knows but that sound will echo and re-echo across endless time? The theater is not merely a place of amusement. It's a living power and should be used for good and not evil. I believe it can be a great educational medium, teaching an audience many things that would otherwise be lost to them. It widens the sympathies and broadens the intellect and sweetens the heart. I believe life with all its pain and sorrows is a beautiful, precious gift. And I believe I must strive to reproduce its beauty by holding fast to this ideal, by doing my duty without regard to personal ambition. I believe that in the course of living a life, of embarking on a goal and the certain truths that go with honest living, after these precepts have been formulated, then one must set out alone, single-handedly, uncompromisingly in these tenets. No one else can do it for you. It's difficult to place this analysis within the framework of a single sentence. I once saw it summed up in a tableau over a proscenium arch in a theater in Chicago. It said, "You yourself must set flame to the torches which you have brought."
They're the creed of Agnes Moorehead, a fine actress and a warm, sympathetic human being.
Starring Edmund O'Brien as Hank Mitchell.
Hank Mitchell's the name. The guy who writes that column buried somewhere in the middle section of your Examiner. In case you haven't discovered it, well, it's a lot like anybody's life. Sometimes it mutters around like an old man, absently looking for his pipe. Sometimes it can start out frolicking like birds on a Sunday morning, and then turn up with a corpse in the dark alley. The corpse in the dark alley is the business at hand. In a big city, a dead man is a pretty impersonal thing, but this one I had a special interest in, because they wanted me to identify it. It was early morning when I walked into the county morgue, and there was that same familiar ammonia smell stinging my nostrils, the usual gleaming tile, and the empty feeling you get when the cold swipe of the morgue hits you across the face like the tail end of a nightmare. The police lieutenant was waiting for me. He nodded to the attendant to pull back the white sheet. Well? Yeah, that's him. That's Ted Carter. Ted Carter. And as the attendant pulled the sheet back up over him, I couldn't help feeling that no matter who they might say killed Ted, the one who'd really put him under that canvas sheet was me. I'd known Ted since we were kids, growing up in the same block of tenements, only I took to banging on a typewriter while Ted started hanging around with the bad boys. We still managed to see each other through the years, and whenever we got together, I never lost the chance to make noble sounds about Ted going straight. Because he liked me, he started listening to me. And so, because he listened, he was lying on a slab. I turned to the lieutenant. He was looking at his pocket watch and yawning.
We had to get positive identification, Hank. You were the only one we could reach. Sorry I got you out of bed.
No, it's okay.
Well, I guess that winds it up. See you soon. Thanks for the trouble.
Hey, wait a minute. What's the hurry? You act like you never knew the kid.
Sure, I know. So what? I know lots of people.
Stuck his neck out for you more than once. Saved your face a couple of times that I remember.
I know you had a friendly interest in the kid, Hank, but he got it the way all hoodlums eventually get it.
He's been going straight, and you know it.
Well, what are you sore about?
Well, who did it? Who killed him?
Go in any book joint, any gym, they'll look in any back alley, any flop house. Whoever you find that could have done it. Take your pick.
Take my pick?
Nobody talks, Hank. Nobody remembers anything. No clues, but a lot of suspects. In my book, it's murder by a person unknown.
Hmm. Just like that.
Just like that.
Well, maybe for you it's that way, Lieutenant. But not for me. I walked away from the lieutenant like he had the smallpox and I'd never been vaccinated. When I hit the street, it was raining. The sky was gray. There was a cold chill in the air. I waited for a cab, thinking for the first time that I hated this city. Hated it because somewhere out in that rain was Ted's killer. What is he doing now? Sleeping? Having his morning coffee? Waiting for the first editions to come out to see how well he'd done? You'd have to look hard to find anything about Ted, paid tricks, ex-hoodlum found shot, period. When you're next to anything, that's a nice way of saying, you're dead, brother. Lie down. When the cab showed up, I went over to see Ted's girl, Joan. As soon as she opened the door, I knew she'd found out. Her face looked pinched and pale. Her eyes were red, like she'd squeezed out that last tear.
You called me to the police station.
Yeah.
Why did it have to happen like that?
Who do you think did it, Joan?
I don't know. He told me he was all through with the rest.
What was he doing? Who had he been mixed up with?
He never told me anything. I never asked him. I believed him when he told me he was going straight.
I'm going to find out who killed him, Joan.
You and Ted lived in different worlds. He wouldn't want you to get hurt because of him.
He believed me when I told him he'd be happier if he went straight. That's a nice thing to keep me company from now on, huh?
But this is for the police, Hank.
Sorry, the police aren't interested.
Oh, but Hank...
Who was the last guy he worked for, Joan? Who got sore when Ted decided to quit, huh?
I don't know.
Joan didn't know. I went around to the old haunts, his former friends. They didn't know. The district attorney didn't know. The cops didn't know. Ted had kicked around in this city among all these people for 28 years, and now, suddenly, it was like he'd never lived at all. Then I remembered a little item from his old life. A little item with baby blue eyes and red hair. Laverne Clare. He'd gone with her before he met Joan. Even after he met Joan, I know he kept sneaking back to Laverne, like a drunk, deciding whether to spend his last coin calling Alcoholics Anonymous or buying a glass of muscatel. I went looking for Laverne. She had the number 4 spot, one of those 5-a-day shows on the untidy side of town. When I got there, I had to wait till the fleshy part of the entertainment was over. Then I went to a dressing room. Ted spent a lot of time telling me how crazy he was about you, Laverne.
Yeah? He's a sweet guy. Ted is all right.
You like to tell me about the way you looked when you danced?
Yeah, sure. Hey, where's my drink? That bottle there. Pour me, will you?
Oh, sure.
Oh?
Say when.
Sorry, that'll be when.
Uh-huh. Here you are.
Thanks.
Who do you think killed him, Laverne?
Look, Mr. Mitchell. You're a nice guy. So why don't you go back to your office and write your column? About pretty things, Mr. Mitchell. Nice, harmless things. You don't want to get mixed up with Bailey or with that guy Jerry. They're poison, Mr. Mitchell. Why, they... Go home. Get out of here.
Bailey.
I didn't say Bailey.
What's Bailey? Character that parlays pinballs into diamond stick pins. Numbers, racket, Bailey, huh? So Ted knew something and he had to shut...
I didn't say that. I didn't say anything.
And who's this Jerry?
I don't know anything. Guy. I don't understand.
Yeah. I'm beginning to understand. So I had myself a lead, George Bailey. Only it was like going fishing with the hope you'll be lucky enough to catch a trout, but all of a sudden, look who's eating your worm, Moby Dick the whale. Before I told anyone else, I thought I'd go back and see Joan. I think I know who killed him, Joan.
You do?
I'm not positive, but it's the beginning.
Who?
George Bailey. Know him?
Bailey? Who told you it was Bailey?
You're getting pale, Joan. So you think it was Bailey, too?
Oh, listen, Hank, stay away from Bailey. He's probably...
Yeah? Well, I'll let you know exactly how much trouble. See you later.
Where are you going?
The lieutenant told me anyone could have killed Ted. He invited me to take my pick. Well, I'm going over and see that cop. I've taken my pick. George Bailey. Hank, you surprised me. You really expect me to arrest George Bailey? On what charge? He's mixed up with Ted's killing. You know it, and I know it. But outside of this Laverne girl, have you got a witness? One single witness who'll testify that Bailey ever knew Ted? Now, you know nobody would testify against Bailey. But I've got to have something to go on, Hank. You have one shred of evidence pointing to Bailey. What? All right, arrest him on suspicion and then sweat it out of him. Now, wouldn't I look fine against Bailey's high-powered shyster lawyer? So what? Me trying to make an arrest stick because some drunken dame shot her mouth off. And even then she'd deny it if I put her on the witness stand. Uh-huh. So you don't want to touch Bailey? Oh, wait a minute. Get me one witness who saw them together.
find me one scrap of circumstantial evidence, I'll arrest Bailey in a minute. You won't find anything. I know, I've tried. All you'll find is frightened people and blank walls. Bailey's had this town by the throat for 10 years. No, I'm sorry, Hank. I can't help you. But I couldn't stop. I was like a snowball. Somebody started rolling down a hill. I didn't know where I was going or what would happen when I got there, but I had to keep rolling. They've got a name for that. It's called the guilt complex, and I had it in Technicolor. Ted was dead and buried because he believed in me. I couldn't forget that, any more than I could forget my name. And then I remembered my column. Sure. Why not? Why not? The stories of those happy winos would have to move over. I was going to work on Bailey in the only way I knew and keep my fingers crossed that something would happen. What big-shot racketeer sends for his aspirin every time someone mentions the back-alley murder of Ted Carter? When is the district attorney going to get wise and change the address of Mr. B from a downtown penthouse to an upstage death house? What's from the list, boss? Mitchell's latest little offer. When are the police going to bring in the Carter killer? Let me see it. And if they don't know who it is, I'll give them a hint. Think of Bailey and reach for the letter B. How long is he going to get away with that? And if I'm wrong, why doesn't somebody sue? Why doesn't somebody sue? Hand me the phone. Sure.
Hello?
I want Hank Mitchell.
You got him.
I'll say it only once, Mr. Mitchell.
Huh?
I don't like this kind of publicity.
Uh-huh. You must be Bailey.
I'm asking you to lay off.
Oh? Real polite, like that.
That's right. Real polite. So what's
the good word, Mr. Mitchell?
a good word, huh? Well, I got a whole sack full. If you get a copy of the Examiner first thing tomorrow, you'll see him right under my byline.
Now listen,
I think you're nice enough to call. I'll give you a preview, something like this. One of the local gendarmes going to knock on Mr. Bailey's door with a warrant for his... Okay. So he doesn't want a preview. Well, let him pay 7 cents. I got back to my rooming house a little after 10. I was feeling pretty good. That guilt complex about Ted Carter wasn't hitting quite so much. I locked my door and stepped inside. I didn't have to shut the door. It was shut for me. I've been waiting for you, Mr. Mitchell. Well, as long as you're here, make yourself at home. You're a wisecracker, ain't you? Like your friend, Ted Carter. What do you know about Ted Carter? He was a regular car. Okay, what do you want? My boss sent me over to take a look at you. Your boss? Mm-hmm. Mr. Bailey. And you? Your little boy, Drew. Yeah, regular wisecracker. Well, that 4 years I'll be dropping around to see him for an interview. Huh? You don't want it that way. He sent me to see you instead. Oh, yeah? Yeah. He don't like people who don't pay attention to his telephone messages. He thinks you're very nasty, yapping all the time that he had something to do with the Ted Carter killing. So? So, like I said, Mr. Bailey don't like it. Okay, Buster, now get out of here. Not right. No. Mr. Bailey wants me to teach you a lesson. Mr. Bailey don't like smart guys. Wisecracker. I woke up with a nice view of my ceiling. A sign outside the window flashed on and off. And every time it flashed on, it was like that punk of Bailey's with his blackjack, testing his strength in my skull and doing fine. After a while, I crawled to my knees and worked my way over to the wall. And I climbed up the side of the dresser till I reached the phone.
Operator,
get me the piece. No, never mind. Skip it. All of a sudden, I didn't want the police in on me. I wanted this to be a private party. All of a sudden, I was tired of the lieutenant shaking his head and saying, give me evidence. I was tired of the clatter of my typewriter and the fiery words that added up to nothing. I guess maybe it was the beating I'd taken, or maybe that guilt complex about Ted working overtime. But all of a sudden, I wanted to feel a gun in my hand. I washed up and changed clothes, found a cab. It was 11:15 when I reached Joan's apartment. I had to knock a long time before she came to the door. She was rubbing the sleep out of her eyes.
Oh, thanks. Come in.
Thanks, honey.
What happened?
Surprise party by the same people who surprised Ted.
Wait, I'll get some damages.
That's not why I came. Ted once told me that when he decided to quit, he brought his gun to you so you could keep it and know he was on the up and up.
So?
I want Ted's gun.
Well, what are you going to do with it?
Never mind, just get me the gun.
Crazy Hank, you won't...
The gun. Will you get me the gun?
In the bottom drawer of the dresser. I got it. I think you're crazy. Here.
Thanks. Now, if I can use your phone. I called the Examiner and talked to a pal on the crime beat. He gave me 2 telephone numbers for Bailey, one at his home, one at his office. I called the home first. They told me he was still working. I called the office, and when friend Jerry answered, I hung up.
Well?
He's at his office, a hard-working fella.
You know what he is?
Sure. Wentworth Towers, skyscraper in the loop. Well, he's seeing you, Jones.
Rick, you're crazy. You're walking right into a trap. They'll kill you like they killed Ted.
If I don't go, Jerry will be coming around again. You see, either way, it's no good. At least this way, I say when.
But Hank...
Wish me luck.
Luck! Oh, you fool. You'll end up like Ted with 5 bullet holes in your back.
At the Wentworth Towers, it was almost midnight. The streets were deserted. The only sound was distant traffic. The front door of the building was locked. I looked through the glass. The only light in the lobby came from the night elevator. An old man sat inside the elevator dozing. I pounded on the window. He looked out at me. He shook his white head for me to go away, but I wasn't going. When he saw me staying there, he got to his feet and started walking toward me. He snapped the door lock and pushed open the front door.
Nobody in this building now. All the offices are closed.
Not all of them, Pop. I have an appointment with Mr. Bailey.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take you up. 34th floor. Come on.
As the elevator rose, I dipped my hand in my coat pocket. The cold touch of the gun and the comforting sensation of a boy holding his father's hand. The elevator came to a stop on the 34th floor. The doors opened, and Jerry stepped out of the darkness, also with a gun, only his was in his fist.
So that call tonight was from you, huh? Take us downstairs, Pop. Sure, thanks, Ed.
I want to see Bailey.
Mr. Bailey made me the reception committee.
Where does the reception take place? In the alley?
Maybe. And keep your hands out of your pockets. Let me see what you've got there. A gun. Pretty nice. Thanks.
Oh, don't mention it. I'm always handing out souvenirs.
You go out first, Pop, and open the street door. All right, Terry. I'll get it open for you.
Is everything all right, Pop? Is it all clear? Why don't you go out there and see? Here, I'll help. I shoved the kid out and pushed the lever that slammed the door shut and started the elevator going up. I could see little lights blink on the instrument panel as I passed each floor. Bailey was on the 34th floor, and I was getting closer. 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 Stop. What was wrong? I kept punching the lever. Again. And again. The elevator wouldn't budge. I tried to open the door, but it sealed tight. The signals on the panel showed I was stuck between the 11th and the 12th floor. What was wrong? And I heard noises far down below. Now I knew what was wrong. Jerry and the old man had gone to the basement and switched off the power on my elevator. I didn't have to be a mastermind to figure out their next move. They'd bring up one of the other elevators and come after me. I began to feel like an animal trapped in a cage. And then I noticed a little door on top of the cage. I climbed on the old man's stool. I pushed the door upward and grabbed the sides of the opening. Then I started pulling myself out. Now, standing on top of the elevator, hanging onto the greasy cable that ran down from the roof of the building. And far below, I heard the other elevator with Jerry and the old man start climbing. Leaning forward, I could just about reach the door of the 12th floor. A little further, a little... Almost lost my balance. The other elevator was coming fast. I lunged for the handle of the 12th floor door again. Got it. Pulled forward with all my strength. The door opened. And I began pulling myself up through the open door and onto the 12th floor. I crouched, gasping like a fish out of water. Then, before I could move, the doors of the other burst open.
Okay, Mr. Wise Guy, what now?
I don't know. Got any suggestions?
Yeah. With all that oil on you, we're going to send you to be cleaners. Pop people downstairs. You better wait a while.
Huh?
Look down the hall.
Who is it?
He was coming.
So?
Into the cleaning room.
We're going to have a witness.
Hey, Pop, will you wait for me, please?
Oh, come on.
Well, this is sure a break, you being up here, Pop. I thought you'd be taking a snooze, and I'd have to wait for heaven knows how long.
No, I'm going down now. Get in.
Oh, what about the gentlemen here? Ain't they going down?
Huh? Yes, of course. But we can't. I just remembered. Remembered what? I left those reports on top of the desk. Come on, we'll go back and pick them up. We can pick them up tomorrow. I want to get them now. And go yourself. I'll go down. But you heard what this lady said. It's hard to get the elevator this time of night. We rode down, the four of us. No one said anything. The cleaning woman was half dead on her feet, her head bobbing, half asleep. That lovely, innocent, tired old gal was saving my life so long as she was with us. Then her head jerked up. She blinked at the signals on the panel.
I'll get out on the 3rd floor, Pop. I'm going to the dressing room.
Say it is. Here you are, number 3.
Thanks, Pop. Good night. Or should I take it more?
Good night.
Me too. I got to get off here.
Well, you don't. This isn't the main floor.
For me, this is the main floor.
Mitchell! Come back here, Mitchell!
I raced down the hall, past the cleaning woman who stared at me with her mouth wide open. In the distance, I saw what I was looking for. A little red sign that said stairway. My pal was right after me. When I got to the stairs, I started down, 4 at a time. He was right in my tail.
Don't knock that nobody, Mitchell!
I had to get out of here fast. The party was getting rough. I reached the main floor, but instead of going through the lobby and into the street, I ducked behind the cigar counter. A few seconds later, the kid raced by. He went through the front door, looking for me on the street outside. I looked at the indicator over the night elevator door. The old guy was still parked on the 3rd floor. I went to the stairs again and down into the basement. A light was burning at a desk. At the desk, a little guy in overalls was sleepily playing solitaire. I grabbed hold of a wrench and started toward him. He heard me and looked up.
Hey, what do you want?
One of those elevators. Which one is working?
What's going on in this
Which one of those elevators is working?
Number 5?
All right, you come with me. Here, this pool room looks all right. Come on, get beside.
But listen,
You shouldn't complain. You don't know how lucky you are.
But...
I got into the elevator and started up. I was getting to be a regular genius with these elevators, but this was going to be the end of this little game. I was finally on my way up to see Bailey. The 34th floor. The building tapered off up here. Around the small square hallway were 6 office doors. Bailey was behind one of those doors. The hallway switch was easy enough to find. I snapped off the light. Now, if Bailey decided to start shooting, I wouldn't make such a good target. I went to the first door. Dudley and Dudley, patent attorneys, the gilt letter said. The second door was locked. Then a telephone started ringing inside one of the offices. The fifth down the hall. I hurried over to it. Locked. The transom was half open, but no light showed through. Then, as I was about to turn away, I heard...
Hello? Is that you, Jerry? Good thing you called. Where the devil are you? The loft, you crazy fool. He's up here. Yes, in the hall, just outside this door. Get that night elevator and come up here right away. We turned out the hall light. Don't take any chances. As soon as your elevator door's open, kill him. All right, move. Now, what are your plans, Mr. Mitchell?
That was a good question, Bailey. What was I going to do? I couldn't break into Bailey's office. I didn't have a gun. He'd kill me before I could turn the door knob. The indicator above the night elevator door was blinking fast. It was on its way up. The kid was in it, and the instant the door opened, he'd kill me. Right then, I started thinking of Joan.
You'll end up like Ted with 5 bullet holes in your back.
Yeah, I was beginning to look that way. The elevator had passed the 17th floor, 18th, 19th. The little lights were dancing like a string of shooting stars. The kid was coming up fast. I was beginning to feel those bullets tearing into my back.
You'll end up like Ted with 5 bullet holes in your back.
I couldn't get Joan's voice out of my mind. What was I going to do?
You'll end up like Ted with 5 bullet holes in your back.
With 5 bullet holes in my back. His back. The elevator reached the 30th floor. I fought my way 34 stories to reach them thinking about Bailey.
You'll end up like Ted with 5 bullet holes in your back.
As the kid's elevator passed the 32nd floor, I started running for the elevator I brought up from the basement. I jumped into it and started down. I didn't want to kill Bailey anymore. I wanted only to get to Joan. Joan was waiting for me when I got to her apartment. She was still as upset as when I left her to get there. She wanted the whole story, everything that happened. When I finished, I watched her relax a little bit.
Then you didn't kill Bailey?
No, Joan, I didn't feel bad.
Police sirens. Sounds like it's stopping in front of the house.
Yeah. They came here sooner than I expected.
Sooner than... You've been lying to me. You did tell him you'd come to arrest you. You lied.
I haven't lied, Joan. I haven't come to arrest me.
Huh?
Come to arrest you.
Me?
For the murder of Ted Carter.
What are you talking about? I didn't...
Oh, but you did. You said the wrong thing tonight when I went out to get Bailey.
What do you mean?
You said I'd end up like Ted with 5 bullet holes in my back. How did you know about that?
What?
It wasn't in any of the newspaper stories. You never went to the morgue. There was no way on earth you could have known. Unless you killed him. Hey, are you there? That's the police, Joan. Any more questions?
He's willing to do anything for you. Scrub his floor, wash his clothes, give him a good home, anything. But always he kept going back to Laverne. The way I loved him, do you think I could let him in?
Okay, boys. I'll let you in. I just want you to know one thing, Joan. No matter what you saw, Ted really loved you. You see, Laverne represented his old world. But with you, he was going to have a new life. You remember that, don't you? Okay, boys, he's ready. He's all yours. Yep, that's the story of Ted Carter. Murdered in the name of love. Okay. That's what love does. Yeah, I'll sing along with me on it. He isn't just feeling low tonight. Because murder is only a symptom of what they're suffering from. The disease is selfishness and jealousy and greed. Too many of us have decided that the golden rule may have been all right for Grandpa, but nowadays the fashionable thing is dog eat dog. Then I think, how can that be? How can any of us hurt or hate or even be indifferent to those around us? And in this whole crazy world, all any of us ever really have is each other. does it for tonight. Nice job. You finish up, yell for the copy boy, dad for a second-hand sandwich, and a tired cup of coffee, and then you start all over again. Because tomorrow you got another night suit. You don't know where the story's coming from or where it's going to take you, but you know it's somewhere out there in the dark, waiting for you. Tell you about it next week. Copy, boy.
You have just heard the first of a new series, Night Beat, starring Edmund O'Brien. Also in our cast were Betty Moran, Jack Crucian, Ann Stone, Herb Butterfield, Dale Bonner, Jack Edwards, and Larry Dodson. Music was by Rex Corey. Night Beat was written by Larry Marcus and directed by William P. Rousseau.
This, I believe. Dr. Ahmed Zaki Abu Shadi is a poet, painter, bacteriologist, and writer on science and humanism. He was born in Cairo, Egypt, and educated there and in England. Since coming to the United States, he has worked in the areas of art, literature, and the theater for the United Nations and the Voice of America. Here is an adaptation of the creed Dr. Abu Shadi formulated for the Arabic edition of This, I Believe.
As a young man, I was greatly influenced by the stories I read about the heroism of great men of the past. What I learned of their love of freedom made a deep impression upon me. However, it was the merciless circumstances of my own experience which made book lessons secondary and led me to believe in and hold on to freedom as I hold on to life itself. Gradually, freedom became for me not only a synonym for life, but even for the Almighty. For the sake of freedom, I preferred to leave my country when tyranny was throwing independent thinkers into chains. In order to speak my mind and gain intellectual and spiritual liberty, I suffered the material and moral hardships of voluntary exile. This, I found, was the inevitable price of the task I had set myself, that of upholding the principles of my beloved birthplace and serving the ideals in which I believe. Life taught me all this, and I followed its teachings with confidence and ease, never regretting that I obeyed them. How could I regret what was simply justice to myself and my most deeply held principles? As much as I believed in freedom for myself, I believed in freedom for others and tried to realize it for them. Thus I learned not to be egoistic, since egoism and lowliness are twins and both are contrary to human dignity. Likewise, I learned that endurance and perseverance are ingredients of this dignity. وَمَا سِرُّ الْحَيَاةِ سِوَى احْتِمَالٍ سَوَاءٌ لِلْهَنِيِّ وَلِلشَّقِيِّ. The secret of life is but endurance, whether for the happy or the unhappy. However, it is the endurance of the struggling fighter in the cause of a noble belief which he preaches for the benefit of mankind, not the submission of the stricken coward that is meant. Life taught me as well not to blame others as much as I blame myself for failures which might have been avoided if I had been wiser and more wide awake. Hence life taught me tolerance, even if I were slapped for it. For I found that toleration is an element of loftiness, and loftiness is fundamental to human dignity. I always feel that the blow aimed at me does more real damage to the aggressor himself. Moreover, a tolerant attitude toward him makes him feel the meaning of this inevitable and automatic punishment, and often brings him back to the human fraternity. However, I have never believed in the toleration of evil at the expense of my dignity and idealism. Finally, I leave it to time, the recorder, and to fate, the supervisor, to do justice to me and the principles in which I believe and for which I sacrifice. I know that justice will be done though it may not come soon nor ever be known. It is freedom which has made and sustained all that is worthwhile in me. It is a most precious treasure that life has granted me. To the extent that I have helped to preserve and enlarge it, I feel that I deserve life.
That was Dr. Ahmed Zaki Abu Shadi, now an American citizen. He continues to contribute to Arabic culture.
Here's Dick Powell as Richard Diamond, private detective.
Good afternoon, Mr. Diamond.
Oh, afternoon, Ed.
Have a good lunch, Mr. Diamond?
Too early to tell.
Hey, you must shave with a dull razor. You got a scratch on your face.
I use a rake.
Here's your floor, Mr. Diamond.
Thanks, Ed. Well, customers. Good afternoon, gentlemen. What can I do for...
Oh, that was nifty, Ziggy. Is that Diamond?
Yeah, Chino. That's him.
Pick him up and drag him over to the chair, Ziggy.
Sure thing, Chino. He's really out.
Yeah. See if you can bring him around. Be a shame if he missed anything.
Chino, would you mind holding my ash can handle? It might break his jaw.
A pleasure, Ziggy.
Diamond. Diamond. He looks like he ain't gonna make it. Maybe you slapped him too hard.
You hurt me, Ziggy. You know how careful I am. Here. Try this pitcher of water.
I felt like I was lying in the middle of a crowded sink and someone had piled all the dishes on my head. They turned on the faucet and I floated up with a dirty coffee cup and took a look around. I treaded water and squinted through my dewy eyelids at two of the ugliest dishwashers I'd ever seen.
He's twitching.
Oh.
See, Ziggy, he's just lazy. Diamond, let us know when things start making sense.
Oh, that's a dirty trick.
Oh, he's talking screwy.
What's a dirty trick, Diamond?
I'm stuck in the drain.
I think you hit him too hard. He's liable to be talking like that from now on.
Give it time. Diamond, you'll pull yourself out.
Yeah. How did you monkeys get in here anyway?
He's back. Now go to work, Ziggy, but keep him with us.
Hey, wait a minute.
Oh! That's enough, Ziggy. Can you hear me, Diamond?
He don't like it. He's going to be hard to get along with.
Belt him across the ears. He'll listen. Hear me now?
He's nodding his head. I guess he wants to keep his mouth shut so the teeth don't fall out.
Fine. Now listen, Diamond. When you get a call from a Mr. Barton, turn down the job. Understand? Ziggy, see if he's tuned in.
Oh. Yeah, you know. He says now he's got his shirt on.
Remember, Mr. Barton, you don't want to work for him. Think he gets it?
Sure, Chino, but he looks tired from the strain.
Oh. Then put him to sleep, Ziggy.
Nighty-night, Don.
He didn't have to say nighty-night. It was only 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He tapped me once more with a galvanized sleeping pill and tucked me away for a rest. The next thing I knew, a pair of gray suede gloves were patting my sore face. Maybe he didn't want to leave any fingerprints on my bruises.
Mr. Diamond, can you hear me?
Oh, you know, this can get monotonous. Go away.
Should I call the police, Mr. Diamond?
What? I was expecting uglier company.
Could you sit up? I'm getting some of your blood on my shoes.
That's tough. I'll turn it off. I'll bet your name's Barton.
Why, that's right. How did you know?
I'm lucky. Now get out of here.
But I want to talk to you.
I just had one long conversation, but it was too one-sided. Go on. My health is doubtful, but it's fun to have it around for company.
Maybe $500 would pick you up?
It might, for a while, but I don't like to waste that kind of money on funerals.
$750?
So they line the coffin with velvet.
$1,000.
You're begging to make a short life sound practical.
If you do the job successfully, there'll be another $1,000.
You just bought yourself a corpse. Let me wash up. Talk some more. I can hear you.
It's my son, Roger. He thinks he killed a man.
He thinks. What do you want me to do? Find out for sure so I can brag about it?
Ever heard of a John Alter?
Sure. Walt Levinson sent him up 5 years ago on a manslaughter rap.
Well, he doesn't like it up there, and he'd like to get out.
I don't blame him. What's this got to do with your son?
I'm chairman of the parole board. Oh, you look much better now, Mr. Diamond. I can't stand the sight of blood.
It doesn't bother me. It happens every week. So, you're the chairman of the parole board.
Yes, some of Alter's friends promised to keep quiet about my son if I let Alter go free when he comes up before the board next week.
And you think maybe your son was framed?
Yes, about a month ago, he met a girl in Florida. Her name is Lenore Brown, and she's a friend of Alter's.
How did they spring the frame?
I beg your pardon?
You must associate with a higher type thug. Spring the frame. Made it look like your son killed somebody.
Oh. Well, when Roger, that's my son, went to pick up the Lenore girl at her apartment, he found her struggling with some man.
That happens.
It looked like he was trying to kill her. There was a gun on the floor, and she called to Roger for help. He picked up the gun and shot the man. She told Roger he had killed him and that he must get out. When we went back, they were both gone. About a month later, some of Alter's friends got in touch with me.
Oh, and they forget about the killing if you let Alter out of Sing Sing.
That's right.
I don't remember reading anything about it in the papers.
Well, you're the first one outside of Alter and his friend who know anything about it. You see, they say they're hiding the corpus delicti, so there was no report of the murder.
Keeping a sieve handy isn't that easy. Why didn't you call the law?
If my son did kill this man, that's the first thing I intend doing. But I have a feeling this man is not dead.
Oh, you think maybe they staged the killing, put blanks in the gun, and after your son beat it, the stiff walked out under his own steam?
That's what I want you to find out. If my son is innocent, I want you to bring the parties responsible to justice.
Amen.
Here's a check for $1,000. If you find the girl and prove my son innocent, there'll be another $1,000 in your pocket.
I'll throw up the holes. Well, thanks, Mr. Barton. I'll start right away.
Goodbye, Mr. Diamond. You can reach me at the Wentworth Hotel. I'm staying there until this matter gets cleared up.
I won't get in touch with you unless I find something. The guys who worked me over are pretty set in their ways, and there's no sense in you tripping over a lot of dead bodies. I looked at the $1,000 check and thought about the beating the two polite gunsels had given me. It was a toss-up. If I'd spent the $1,000 like I knew I would, I'd be dead anyway. The two goons were probably still hanging around my building, and if they spotted me, they'd guess I'd taken the job. When I get more than $10 in my pocket, I smile all over. I went out the back way and through the alley. Had to start somewhere, so I headed for the 5th Precinct Police Station. When you're looking for a killer, homicide's got all the road maps on murder. An old friend and ex-partner was in charge. The men who worked the detail called him Lieutenant Levinson, but he had a couple of friends who still called him Walt. I was one of them. You earn that right when you work for a guy for 6 years. After I left the force, Walt started doing a solo, but he now had a sergeant who stumbled around after him. His name was Otis, and he had the biggest feet in the state of New York. Every time he took off his shoes, I wanted to grab a champagne bottle and launch them. I don't think he liked me. When I walked in, his face always looked like an advertisement for a sour stomach.
Well, Richard Diamond, private detective.
Well, Sergeant Otis, homicide's answer to the missing link.
What was that last word?
Well, you're half safe. I said link. Walt in?
Yeah. You turn the knob and you push.
Why don't you get that uniform cleaned? Some days going to get up and walk to the station without you.
Well, hello, Rick. If you got... Yeah. You must get tired changing your face every day. Somebody shove you around again?
Been catching up on my patty cake, Walt. Tell me, did you ever know a bit of fluff named Lenore Brown?
Sure, John Alder's expense account. Used to hold hands before I sent him up.
Know where I can find it?
Alder's still got her staked out. When he leaves stir, he's going to come back and dig up the claim. You better forget about it. She's got the antidote for lonely nights, but some of Alder's boys are protecting her.
I know, yeah. They gave me a pep talk this afternoon.
And then listen to him. better watching your game from the bench.
You never can tell. I might make a score.
Well, you're outweighed, outclassed, and liable to be outlived. She used to work at the Black Swan in Florida. I heard Alda was trying to get a parole, and she came to New York to be close to him.
Any lying on her here in town?
No, but if she's seeing Alda, you might spot her on a business day. And now, look, Rick, why don't you stop chasing two-bit thugs and come back on the force? I never had ulcers when we were working together.
You know how I feel about that, Walt. I'm a restless guy. Sometimes I like to sleep late in the morning.
Okay, Rick. Want me to call the warden and tell him you're coming?
Yeah, thanks, Walt. Take it easy.
Bye, Rick. Be a good boy.
Yes, Paul?
Mr. Richard Diamond to see you, Warden.
Oh, send him in.
You can go on in, Mr. Diamond.
Thanks, Paul.
Well, Rick, how are you? It's been a long time.
I know a lot of guys who wouldn't like to hear that, Warden. How are you, Jim?
That's right. What's on your mind?
I hear Johnny Alta's been having company. I'd like to take a look at her.
Oh, Miss Brown. Well, I can't blame you.
I just want to spot her and see where she goes.
You can't miss. If she walked through the yard, there'd be a jailbreak tomorrow.
What time are visiting hours?
Well, if she's seeing Alta today, she should be downstairs right now. Pardon me a second.
Yes, Warden.
Paul, has Lenore Brown come in today?
Yes, she has, Warden. She's in seeing Alta right now.
Thanks, Paul. She's downstairs, Rick. Like to take a look?
Yeah.
I'll have Paul take you down. On second thought, I'll go myself. There she is, sitting at the end table talking to Alta.
Oh. Now I know why Alta needs a lot of money. She's wearing enough mink to carpet Radio City.
You should get a load of her on a warm day.
Coat doesn't stop me. She'd show up, even if she's wearing a tent. How long has she got with Alta?
About another 5 minutes.
Warden, maybe I'll let you put me away for a couple of years. With something like that to look forward to on Visitor's Day, I might go for the change.
Well, you'd get tired of just talking. Think what you could do on the outside.
Yeah, I am, but it would probably send me right back up here.
You want to stick around till she's through talking?
Thanks, Jim. I'll wait in front till she comes out. I hung around by the big gray buildings until she came out. She walked over to a long white convertible and got in. Now I know what the guy meant when he wrote, "Ask the man who owns one." I decided to let her buy me a new fuse, and I walked over to the car. Going to town?
Oh? Back up 3 feet and I'll let you know.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Your tailor couldn't do all of that.
Thanks.
Get in. Visiting?
Yeah, the warden's an old friend.
How many years did you know him?
Baby. I've been going home every night all my life.
Every night?
Well, almost.
What do you do with the almost?
Depends. Everybody likes something different.
You must get tired thinking up new ideas.
Oh, I don't think much. It's more fun being surprised. Hey, what are you stopping for? We just got started.
Surprise?
Oh, yeah. And the nickel-plated one. Look, baby, you don't have to pull a gun. If I'm getting fresh, I'll get out and walk.
You'll sit right there, Diamond.
Oh, name dropper.
Mm-hmm.
Expecting company?
Mm-hmm, and you've met them before, honey.
That's nice. I wouldn't want you to get stuck with the introductions. That's your friends coming along in that car?
It should be. Now hold real still. They'll only shoot you this time.
Sometimes you're lucky. When a dame's got a gun on you, you don't stand much of a chance unless she's got her mind on something else. This one did. And when she looked up in the rearview mirror to make sure it was her boys, I tagged her. My two playmates were just pulling up in the green sedan when I went out of the car like a dry transmission.
There he is. He's sliding up. Nail it.
He let go just as I dived off the side of the road and hit the center embankment. I rolled at the bottom and came up looking like an exhibit for smallpox.
He's down the hill. Go get him, Ziggy.
There was a line of trees just off to the right, and I got to them just as Ziggy tried again. He needed a rifle. I was running through the trees then, and I could hear Ziggy somewhere behind me falling all over himself. I pulled my gun and thought about waiting for him. I could give him so many holes he'd whistle in a high wind, but I had another idea. I stopped and listened.
He's around here somewhere. Well, come on. We'll spread out.
That tore it right down the middle. They were somewhere behind me, and both of them were looking.
Get off of me, you man! Get off! I got on a new suit.
Oh, my deepest apologies, Gino. I thought you was Diamond.
Can't you tell the difference, Ziggy? He's got on a blue suit.
Oh, I'm a little colorblind.
Now let's find Diamond.
They started hunting again, and I cut off to my left and headed back to the highway. I reached the hill that sloped down from the highway, and I went up fast. The cars were about 100 yards down the road, and I used my last lung getting there. Lenore was still out, just like I'd left her when I put her to sleep. I went over to the Gunsel's car and lifted the hood. Chino and Ziggy could apologize all night while they looked for a new distributor. I went back to the white convertible with the unconscious nylons and got in. I noticed something lying on the seat. It was her purse, and she didn't wake up when I grabbed it. Doing a rummage job at 80 miles an hour isn't easy. But there wasn't much of interest anyway, just a little black book. I needed a gimmick, so I stuck it in my pocket. I put the purse back on the seat just as she started coming around. Well, now that's it, baby. Sit up and look at the pretty scenery.
How did you get here? Where's Ziggy and Chino?
Playing Peter Pan. Jaw hurt?
Yes, you heal.
Play rough and you get hurt. Where do I take you?
My apartment, I guess. You're going to ask a lot of questions, and I don't talk much. We might as well figure out something to fill in the lull.
I drove to her place on East 51st and walked her to the door. She looked at me like a fat woman eyeing a French pastry, and her mouth slipped down to her shoelaces when I gave her a peck on the cheek and left her standing with an old front doorknob in her hand. I knew she wasn't going to spill anything, even if I got her drunk. Besides, she could probably drink Tony Galeno under the table and still be sober enough to play hopscotch. I went back to the office and took out her little black book. There were a lot of names, and some of them I knew. Chino, and after it, likes his work. And Ziggy, and after his name, has own gun. Yeah, Richard Diamond, too. I never did figure out what the 3 stars were for. I forgot all about my date with Helen when the phone rang. Yeah?
Hello, Rick. Well, Fong Wu called Mr. Richard Diamond to the phone chop-chop. He's got a date, and she doesn't like being stood up.
Hello, Helen.
Hi. What was all that about? Forget you had a date with me?
Yeah, I did. And I'm sorry, baby, but right now I'm being chased like a hopped-up fox, and I haven't had time to curl up and relax.
You're impossible.
I know it. Want your sorority pen back?
Well, I'll make up my mind when you get here.
I'll give you my Lone Ranger magic decoder.
You fool.
Are we still going steady?
Oh, yes. Rick, when am I going to see you?
Honey, right now I got some reading to do. Why don't you go to a movie? Little Women Past the Senses. I'll be over later.
I'll probably end up marrying an usher. Don't be too late, Rick.
I won't. Besides, we get along better early in the morning.
Bye.
Bye, baby. I sat there for a minute thinking about Helen Asher and wondering why I hadn't learned how to butter my bread. She was everything a guy should want. $10 million playing multiplication in a fat trust fund. A figure that would snarl of any quiet intersection. And a mind that would give a master's degree in inferiority complex. Diamond, you fool, you. Well, Lenore Brown's little black book was a poor substitute for an evening with Helen, but 3 items put me in second gear. They weren't hard to find. Take out all the men's names, and there they were, 3 addresses. One was in the village, another in Harlem, and the last was somewhere in Chinatown. All of them were a setup for a dead man who wanted to make himself scarce. I wanted to talk with Barton before I started hunting, so I called the Wentworth.
Wentworth Hotel.
Mr. Barton, please.
Yes, sir. I'll ring him.
Hello? Mr. Barton, this is Diamond.
Oh, yes, Diamond. Did you find out anything yet?
Not yet, but tell me, did your son tell you what his victim looked like?
Why, yes. He said he was a dark man with a scar from his nose to his chin. He said he'd never forget it.
Oh, well, thanks. Maybe I'll call you tomorrow.
I hope you clear this thing up in a hurry.
So do I. I want to get my nerves untangled. I took the easy address first, grabbed a cab, and 20 minutes later I was walking down the steps of a little dive on the east side of Greenwich Village. It was a shabby little place, and the customers had enough long hair to give a two-pay deal to the DTs. A fat waiter walked over and eyed my clean shirt. He was wearing an apron that looked like he'd made the salad on it. He was swell.
You wanted something, Mac?
Yeah, a pound of egg noodles. Just sweep them up off the floor. Do you know anyone named Lenore?
Lenore? Oh, sure, Lenore Brown. Hey, she comes in here about once a week, listens to the kid at the piano. Now, why would a classy dame like that go out with him? He don't play the piano so good.
You ever see a guy with her? Dark man with a scar from his nose to his chin?
No, she always does a single.
Yeah, well, thanks.
Hey, you still want those noodles?
I walked out, got back in the cab, and marked off Greenwich Village in the little black book. The second address was on the fringe of Harlem, the Hill, they call it. The night was black, and the fog had rolled in off the East River and staked out a claim all the way to Lenox Avenue. As I walked up to the old brownstone, my nerves started screaming SOS. I stopped cold and looked down at two gleaming eyes, like two pieces of polished glass shining in the glare of the dim street lamp. As I got used to the darkness, I could make him out. He was a big, white, battle-scarred bulldog, and he had some ideas of his own. He started shuffling in slowly, jerking back his lips and showing a row of white teeth.
Hold it, Lucifer.
I hadn't heard him come out on the porch. He was a big man wearing an off-white undershirt. And from what I could see, he looked meaner than his dog. The animal stopped, but he kept facing me, showing off his toothpaste smile.
You won't hurt you, mister. Unless I tell him to.
I'll think about it for a while. I'm a poor substitute for horse meat.
What do you want?
Do you know a Lenore Brown?
You a cop?
Shamus.
Beat it, Lucifer.
Thanks, pal. I couldn't hold my breath much longer.
You can come up on the porch. You're looking for Lenore Brown, huh?
Yeah, know her?
I met her. My wife works for her.
Is your wife in?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah?
Come here. Some private dick wants to talk to you. She's Miss Brown's private maid.
Yeah.
Your husband tells me you work for Miss Brown.
Yeah, what's she done?
She got many friends?
Men friends.
No. You know a dark man with a scar?
Oh, sure, I know lots of them.
What are you talking about, woman?
Oh, I met someone who Miss Brown knows.
What did you mean by that, mister?
Look, I really don't know anybody with a scar. Now you better beat it.
Yeah. Get moving. And I want to talk to you, woman. Get in there.
Yes, honey.
I knew she was going to get bruised, but he looked rough enough to cut my windpipe, and I wanted someplace to pour my coffee down in the morning. So I got out of there fast and headed for the last address in the little black book. The place was on one of those narrow, dark streets. It was so quiet you could hear yourself change your mind. A sign above the door read Tangy, so I pushed it open and went in. If I didn't find a man with a scar here, I was out on strikes. It was a little restaurant on the bottom floor of a two-story building. A quiet waiter slipped up and showed me to a booth. He shoved the menu in my hand and disappeared before I could ask him anything. The place was empty except for an old couple sitting near the door. The waiter said something to them, and they looked quickly over at me, and then they left in a hurry. The room was completely empty now. Even the waiter had disappeared. I looked up at a flight of stairs at the far end of the room. A pair of very healthy ankles came into view, and they were holding up a pair of legs that ran my blood pressure up to 190 again. I eased my gun out and held it under the table. Lenore turned the corner and started down toward my booth like a loose snake in a rabbit pen.
Mind if I sit down?
It's your party.
Shame on you. Don't you know it's not nice to pilfer a lady's handbag? Now, Mama will have to thank.
Looks like the last address paid off.
If you're buying shrouds, it did.
Where's the guy that young Barton was supposed to have killed?
Upstairs. But he's very unsociable. Hates long conversations.
I only need a couple of lines.
He can't even do that. He likes to keep on breathing.
Old man Barton figures Alter framed his son. He's not going to let your boyfriend out of Sing Sing until he finds a man with a scar.
Think he can do better than you did?
Well, I found him.
Was it worth dying for?
I don't know. I can tell you better after I talk to him.
Mama's going to have to spank sooner than she expected. Come in, boys.
Well, look who's here. Are Mama's two big idiots out collecting blood again? Where are your buckets?
Oh, he's bitter.
President!
You've met Chino and Ziggy before, haven't you?
Yeah, on the end of a fist.
They want to show you the town.
I know the beat.
I'll bet you've never seen it from the bottom of the East River.
No, but if you'll put on a bathing suit, I might buy the idea.
Too bad we'll never make the beach together. I'd like to show you the sights. Boys, you better help Mr. Diamond out of the booth. I think he's stuck. You know how it is. The boys like to keep moving.
So do I. I shot once and caught Ziggy in the stomach, and I dumped the table over on Chino. He grabbed like he was going to waltz with it. I didn't even have to get up. I just shot him through the cover shot. Lenora was out of the booth fast and running for the stairs.
Look out, Tony, look out!
I caught up with her at the foot of the stairs, and as she started up, I saw him, standing on the upper landing, scar and all meaning gun in his hand. He missed me, but nailed her halfway up. She spun around and fell all over me. But I point a gun pretty good from the prone position. You should have kept your nose up, mister. A bad landing washes you out. I called Lieutenant Levinson, squared myself. Then homicide came down and cleaned things up. They were all dead, and I figured I never would reach the beach anyway. I phoned Barton, who took his son down to the morgue to look over the night's take. Young Barton identified the man with the scars, the one he thought he'd killed. They gave me the notch, and I made another call. This time to a pair of silk pajamas with an understanding heart. It was late, but I was hungry.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Diamond. Isn't it rather late to be calling?
You know something? You're right, Francis. It's 2 a.m. Time for all good butlers to be bedded by.
Miss Helen is in the library, but I'm not sure whether she wants to see you.
Well, you just run along and get some sleep. I'll find out and let you know.
Very good, sir. Confidentially, she's a little peeved.
Look.
Chin up, Mr. Diamond.
Francis, if she gets tough with me, I'll knock her teeth out.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
Francis, is that who I think it was? Oh.
Hi.
The food was cold a long time ago.
So's my date. I'm sorry, honey.
Oh, that's all right.
The fire's almost burned out.
It's 2:00 in the morning, Mr. Diamond. I've sat through 2 features of Tom and Jerry and the 4th chapter of Batman, Hops of Freight.
Come on, don't scold, baby.
I haven't in weeks, but I've been rehearsing this for the past 2 hours, and you're going to listen. And that's another thing. You never play when I want you to. Only when I've got you on the carpet.
That sounds like fun.
Now, stop being glib. If you think for 1 minute you can turn me into...
Powder your face with the sunshine. Put on a great big smile.
Now, stop that and listen to me.
Okay, I'll shut up. Well, go on.
No. Now you've made me forget what I was going to say.
Well, if you can't remember, honey, hold a good thought.
It's a big, wide, wonderful world you live in. When you're in love, you're a master. Of all you survey, you're a gay Santa Claus.
I just remembered.
Too late now, honey. I'm rolling.
There's a brave new star-spangled sky above you. When you're in love, you're a hero, a Nero, Apollo, the Wizard of Oz.
Oh, Rick, how do you do it?
You've a kingdom, power and glory.
Richard Diamond, starring Dick Powell, was previously released over the National Broadcasting Company for listeners in the United States and has been re-released to you men and women overseas by the United States Armed Forces Radio Service, the voice of information and education.